Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 13th day of June, 2017. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're here for the very first time, then a special welcome to you. I have a chart up of the S&P 500 Emini Futures. If you cannot see the chart, just go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. Where it says Watch Live Now, click that. You'll be registered through the end of the month. You won't have to worry about it again until the 1st of July. The other option is to go to youtube.com/CFRN and then click Live. And voila. It's as if you're right in the studio with us. Michael has a video coming up this afternoon, or not a video, but a webinar coming up this afternoon. So we're going to scoot through the numbers really quick, and then we're going to pass things right over to him. Here in the U.S., these are the cash markets. Dow is up 78 points. NASDAQ is up 33, which is a little over 0.5%. It's a overdue recovery for the NASDAQ. S&P 500 up 6.5, and the Russell 2000 up a little over 6. Nothing big, but it's all green. So, crude oil also green today, up 30 cents, trading 46.38. And gold down again today, $3.50, trading $12.65.40. In the European markets, the FTSE closed down 11.5 points. The DAX closed up 75 points, which is a little over half of 1%. And the CAC closed up 21 points, which was almost half of 1%. And last but not least, the Asian markets are also mixed, just like Europe. The Nikkei closed down 10 points. Shanghai closed up 14.5. And the Hang Seng had another big day, up 144 points, well over half of 1%. Verizon has completed its $4.48 billion acquisition of Yahoo. And Marissa Mayer is stepping down and leaving the building with $23 million. I don't know how you did it, Marissa, but you hoodwinked everybody in Silicon Valley for quite a long time. And congratulations to you. Yahoo has been a story of one hoodwink after another. Back in the heyday when people were paying $400 a share for Yahoo, they gave Mark Cuban $3 billion for broadcast.com, which, well, let's just say it was something that didn't work quite right. But he took the money and never looked back. He'd done real well for himself. And then when Marissa took over at Yahoo, which is many years later, any of her friends who had a little tech startup, oh, that's so cute. Here's $100 million, here's $200 million. Yeah, we'll buy you. Until they were broke. Basically what Verizon is buying is a memory. Now, they spun off part of the company, and that's where the value of Yahoo really lies, in the shares they own in Alibaba. And Jack Ma, he's one smart guy. He's the Chinese version of Jeff Bezos. A couple light years behind him, but catching up fast. So, anyway, back to the numbers. We were mixed in Europe, mixed in Asia, all green here at home in the US of A, and mixed in the commodities. With that said, we'll cut over to Michael right now, and he'll take the screen, give us a recap of what happened in the live training room today, and then he'll be getting ready for his webinar this afternoon, and I'm sure he'll give the link to all of you that are on the trial, or those of you that just want to come and hang out and see some of what you don't see in the live training room. And when I come back, I'll talk to you about a thing or two, because I know a thing or two about a thing or two. So, you ready, Mike?
I am ready.
You sound ready.
I am.
Now, I want you to follow along carefully today as Michael goes over one part of his testimony, unless he takes the fifth, or unless, like Jeff Sessions, he claims executive privilege. I don't even know what that is, but we have a hard and fast rule that we teach all of our students is once you reach your goal for the day, you take the money and you put the mouse away. And as you see how today unfolded, it'll probably drive home that point, because when I first started, it was like, oh man, go bell to bell, bang it out, get as many points as you can. Well, that didn't work so well for me. Take it away, Michael. I don't want to,
Right.
No spoiler
All right.
alerts.
Here we go.
Take it away.
Here we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today's Tuesday, the 13th day of June, 2017. All right. If you have not taken a free trial with us, we have made it pretty easy for you. You just got to go right here to the homepage at CFRN.net. Right here at the top, this little banner drops down. You got to click there. When you click there, we got a new landing page here. This fancy new page Dwayne and I made last night. Isn't that pretty? And Just got to put in your name, your email, information link. That was all tested right there. When you do that, you'll be sent to confirmation. Okay, if you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. All right, you got to make sure you do that. Just try this. Michael. Okay, see, nice little message. All right, you'll be sent the confirmation link now, and you got to click on that confirmation link. All right, if you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. All right, and let's go back to this page, and now we'll go to the recaps. And this is the part that Dwayne really wanted you to listen to. Hang on. If you're going to read this spreadsheet, you could read the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Today is the 13th of June. Today we lost 4 ticks. On the euro, we lost 16 ticks. On the YM, we made 16 on crude and 1 on gold. So we ended with plus 65 gross. But today it took us 32 minutes and 3 opportunities to get to $160 a contract. So we gave back $95 over the next 6 opportunities. The last 2 trades of the day were losing trades. So that's what did it really. But on the month now, 956.25 over 9 days, averaging 106.25. On the year, 17,091 over 110 days, averaging 155 a day. Again, if you're going to read this, you can read the CFTC risk disclosure stuff right down at the very bottom. Okay, let's go over what we did. Okay, it looks like on the gold we had just this one opportunity right here, and we got 1 tick out of that. We had another one right there that we missed, follow up, and one right here that we missed. And one right here that we missed. This one would have been a break even. This one would have given us some profit, and this one would have given us some profit. Okay, during the break, there was really nothing else, because this was going down into dynamic support, so there was nothing else. Okay, and on the euro, let's see. On the euro, we started out with this one right here. Oops. Plus 4 right there on the euro. We missed that one. Stopped out on that, minus 8 ticks. Okay. Then pulled back here, and it doesn't look like there was anything that we could do in here. The cycle ended up going up too steep there on it. So we ended up with minus 4 on the euro today. Okay, crude looks like it had a nice run here during the break. All right, this right here was our first opportunity on crude. It was break even. Then the next one was right here. We picked up 16 ticks right there. That is where we got the goal for the day. We missed the follow up there and there. And we're gonna break even there and there. And then it made this big leg up right here. It was a momentum long trade right there. And another one right here. That leg up, then another one right there for that leg up. It changed directions, but it didn't actually give a short trade until right over here. Okay, right in here was a shorting opportunity for that little leg down. The YM, we had just the YM. We had this one we stopped out on, this one we missed, that one we missed, and this one we stopped out on. During the break, the YM didn't really give us much to play with here. Okay. The ES, I don't think I highlighted anything on the ES because it was just a sideways mess. You see that? It worked its way down into the zone, then it bounced off the zone. Then during the break, you had to bounce off the BBC right here for that leg up. And that was it. That was it. All right. So here we are, 613. We lost 4 on the euro, lost 16 on the YM, made 16 on crude, made 1 on gold, plus 65 on the morning. Took us 32 minutes and 3 opportunities to get to 160 at a contract, and Took a total of 9 this morning. On the month now, we're at 956.25. That's over 9 days, averaging 106 per day gross. On the year, the gross 17,091. That's over 110 days, averaging 155 per day. Again, that's gross. And if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures right down at the bottom. And let's jump in here again. To take our free trial, if you have not taken the free trial, just go to the homepage here at CFRN.net, and you watch right up here. This little banner is going to fall down. You click right there, brings you to this page. Just put in your name, put in your email address, and click register now. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click the link, you will not get the free trial. And that's it. That's all I got. So, with that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. Do I have my name in here?
Overlooking America's largest city park.
Yes, overlooking America's largest city park. I've even saved that paper that I wrote that down on. It's in a little folder over there. There you go.
Okay. So the recap of the recap, sir.
32 minutes, 3 trades, $160 per contract.
32 minutes, 3 trades, $160. So at that point, if you had hung up the mouse, you would have been $60 over the daily goal. Or what market were you trading? Do you know? So was it
Crude.
6? Okay, so you were 6 ticks over the daily goal.
Yes.
So had you hung up the mouse then, you would have been rolling forward to tomorrow 6 ticks, 6 extra ticks that could be used on any given day, and you would be rolling forward 7 unused trades that could be used on any day that you might need them. And those roll forward ticks are really important. Let's say it happened to just an ordinary person, ordinary trader like me. I come in tomorrow and I take my first trade and I get 8 ticks in crude. Wow, it's a great way to start the day. However, to reach my goal for the day, I've got to take another trade. And as you know, in the live trading room, we always risk 8 ticks on every trade. It doesn't matter what market, that's our risk. So when I take that second trade, there is the possibility that I could get stopped out for the full 8 ticks. I will now be 2 trades into the day, and I'll be back to break even. Plus I'm out a little commission. So this is the point where you take off the trading hat and put on the business manager hat, and you go, okay, I'm in a good situation here. Let me make the right decision. I got my goal yesterday, and by accident I ended up with extra. Okay, good things do happen to good people sometimes. Now today I've got these 6 rollover ticks. That's money I've already earned, but I can use 2 of those rollover ticks and add them to the 8 ticks I just got. That means I'll have my goal for today, 2 days in a row. I'll still have 4 carryover ticks in the kitty, plus I have 9 unused trades that I can roll forward with the rollover trades from yesterday. Or again, I could take another trade and get stopped out for 8 ticks and be back to square one minus commissions. I think I'll make the smart business decision, and I'm done for the day. Hang up the mouse, put the money away, or take the money and put the mouse away. Then when you come back the following day, oh my goodness, you got 7 rollover from the first day, 9 rollover trades from the second day. So you're sitting on 26 trades to make your $100 per contract, and you still have 4 rollover ticks. Now, on that third day when you take your first trade, you're not trying to just get 6 ticks so you can be done for the day. No, every time you put on a trade, you always expect to reach the goal. And if for some reason that trade can't reach the goal, like there's a weekly trading zone blocking it or something of that nature, or a double top, or then pass. Arizona passes. You wait for the next prime opportunity. So what we teach you during the 90-day mentoring program is not just how to go get the goal for the day, but how to manage yourself, your behavior, your business. It's a complete package, holistic, if I may use a term. Because so many people, like Joe over here, he might be really good at getting his points for the day because he really knows how to spot that high probability setup, but he's just a mess when it comes to managing the business in the way that I just explained. And then over here we've got, Robert, who he really struggles to get the ticks every day, but when it comes to managing the business, he's, on top of things. So what we have to do through the live classes every day and through the mentoring sessions that you have with me and with Michael is we try to figure out where you're at, where your struggle or where your issue is, and then we work with you on that so that hopefully by the end of your 90-day mentoring program, your ability to step into the market each day, reach your daily goal in 10 trades or less on average, is something that is now second nature. It's like driving a car or riding a bicycle. You don't even have to really think about it, but yet you are hyper focused when you are doing it. When you drive, you're not really thinking about, oh man, I'm driving. But yet you stop at every stoplight, you go the speed limit, you always use your turn blinker. That's what I mean by it becomes just second nature. So hopefully those of you who just watched the recap and were paying attention, you'll take that to heart and you'll realize that that's something that you need to integrate into your trading routine. That it's every bit as important, if not more important, than simply learning the one setup that we teach that allows you to get your points on a consistent basis in 10 trades or less on average. So thank you, Michael, for being a living example of what not to do. What a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Michael's job every day, in the live training room, he's got a 2-hour window he's up against. He simply wants to show you as many trade setups, executions, managements, and exits as he possibly can during the 2 hours, because we use the same trade setup, same indicators, same time frame on every market. S&P, crude oil, gold, soybeans, it doesn't matter. When you're trading in auction style markets where people are on the bid and people are on the ask and prices channeling back and forth, I know they've all got different personalities. Crude likes long walks on the beach and gold likes to go to the movies, but we're not getting married here. We just want to get our goal for the day and get out. Okay. All right, Michael, I know you got to get over to the makeup truck, so
All right.
or van or motorhome,
the van.
Whatever they call it. Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon. And thanks for the help with that thing yesterday. It really did turn out quite swell.
Yeah, it looks great. You tested it, right? All the slots and all that.
I did, and
Okay.
yeah, and I also because I'm comfortable with that video section now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can do some cool stuff. So we'll see.
Okay. Awesome.
Alrighty.
Awesome. It does look good. All right.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Oh, did you give them the link?
I'll give it right now.
Okay.
I'll give it right now.
Okay, guys, have a look at the screen. Now, yes, these are last week's zones. Not only are they last week's zones, They're actually zones that were published for the partners not this past Monday, but the Monday before. And it was for the June contract, not the September contract, which we are currently trading. But let's scroll back just a smidgen. And I don't know if they have smidgens where you come from, but we did. Remember last week's zones and the previous contract. This is the Sunday night Globex open. We open right into a weekly zone. We consolidate right below a weekly zone. And then we make our way almost down to the zone below, miss it by a few ticks. Zones are an area. And these are the previous week zones for the previous contract. So down and up and consolidation. Remember, you'll always get three things at a zone: consolidation, rejection, or a hot knife through butter. And after consolidating here, what does it do? It goes right up to that old zone. And then what does it do? Tries to come back to the old zone. And now it's consolidating for the second half-hour candle right inside of the zone. 2434/2435. Got a little bit of a double top going on right there. Let's grab our little tool here. And well, we might want to scrunch. Yep, that's good. That's perfect. Let's go from that low to that high. And then let us do that. Now this is Fibonacci math. Wasn't invented last week. God wove it into the very creation of the universe. You see it in a seashell, in a flower, in human DNA, the curve of a woman's back, in people's faces. They have proven in scientific studies that people who have Fibonacci faces, in other words, the distance from the top of their forehead to their chin to the nose to the cheekbones, it is like that perfect spiral you see in a flower or in a seashell. And when a small baby, is exposed to what they call a perfect Fibonacci face, they coo and they laugh and they reach out. But take someone like, say, Abraham Lincoln, who definitely did not have a Fibonacci face. The little babies have a high propensity to freaking out and crying and screaming and being very, very afraid. Now, I know that sounds like a whole bunch of hooey, so you Google it up. It was a scientific study, and they got all the facts and data to back it up. What I'm using Fibonacci for here is not the typical Fibonacci retracement, but I'm using it for price extension, which means we're looking for the most likely target based on the same math that's used in the retracements, but just in the other direction. So we go from the low to the swing high to the retracement low, and what it does is it projects that if price from this swing low here, from this retracement, if we get a 38% move up, and that means 38% of this to this, then we'll have a price target right about 2435/36. A 50% move, 2437. A 62% move, 2440. And if we duplicate this leg 100%, that would put us up at 2447. And if I take a look at this week's weekly trading zones, I see that 47 is sort of in no man's land between zones, which leads me to believe that were it to reach 47, that it's probably going to continue upwards to the next weekly trading zone. Our partners all got that information yesterday, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. That's how I've been doing it since December 14th, 2009. On Thursday, I will, of course, reveal to the community at large here on the radio show this week's zones. I wrote on the blog over the weekend, I think it was, to all partners, if you're not at least using the weekly trading zones as a backdrop to your trading, you're missing out on one of the most powerful tools that you have in your trading toolbox. So don't let them confuse you. Don't not use them because you don't understand them. You can Google CFRN weekly trading zones, come up with a bunch of stuff, and up at the top of the page, there's about 3 pages, I think, of just little articles, quips, quotes, snippets of things I've written over the years. But at the top of the Google search page, if you click images, you'll find some charts that Google snagged up over the years, and I think some of them go all the way back to 2009. You can go on our blog, our old blog, archive.cfrn.net, and you can see the very first weekly trading zone chart that we published, which was on December 14th of 2009. So you got to do some scrolling back, but it's there. And you know what? It looks almost identical to this. Hit the zone, made it almost back to this zone, back up and consolidating. It truly is, to me, I think I'm as fascinated by the weekly trading zones probably as Leonardo was when he stumbled upon his theory about this golden ratio and then proved it out through his experiments. And he actually proved it with rabbits. So as you might know, if you're raised on a farm in Iowa or someplace, that rabbits multiply rather quickly. And if you just Google Fibonacci and rabbits, and you'll get the whole story on how he put it together. It's pretty interesting. And is it a perfect trading tool? No. Is it a great trading tool for verification, is it a great companion trading tool for so many things? Oh, absolutely, 100 times yes. What it isn't is a standalone trading strategy, okay? Because sometimes price will pull back to the 38, sometimes it'll pull back to the 50, sometimes it'll pull back to the 62. Quite often it will pull back halfway between the 38 and the 50, or the 50 and the 62. And sometimes the 62 won't even hold. It'll go back to test the low. Sometimes the low will give away, and now you've got a reversal on your hands, not a retracement. Our students don't have to worry themselves too terribly much, because Michael and I, as we created the indicators that we use in the live training room, Fibonacci's built in. The next time you're trading with us in the live training room, or when you're trading on your own, and you have a nice move up and price pulls back to the BBC, grab your fib tool and measure it. It'll almost always be a 38% retracement or a 50% retracement, or somewhere in between. Fibs are an area. Yes, the tool puts an exact number on your chart, but always think of them as an area. If it doesn't quite make it back to the 50% retracement, but the next candle shows clear signs that buying has come into the market, well, guess what? People all over the world, hedge fund managers, bankers, rogue traders, they know about Fibonacci, and they're watching those charts. And if you're using something like an hourly chart or a daily chart, when there's a 50% retracement in the S&P 500 on an hourly chart, you can almost take it to the bank every time. There's going to be a reaction. Doesn't mean that we're going to put in a new high. Doesn't even mean we're going to put in a double top. What it does mean is that enough people who believe Fibonacci, they create what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so as they come in and start buying the market, it will typically at least push it far enough for you to reach your goal for the day. And then whatever happens after that really doesn't matter, because you've got your goal for the day. Now, for those partners who do want to spend more time on the topic, I'm happy to do so. And in the members area of the website, in our newest section, the mentoring library, there is, I think, 1 or 2 mentoring sessions where a partner allowed me to record the session, and we go into some detail, and we talk about both Fibonacci and also the weekly zones. Would that be our good friend John?
It sure is. Hi, how are you?
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yesterday, I know you had to go and take that call, but did you try coming back in later?
I did listen for a while, but you were, I forget what was
we
going
couldn't
on.
hear you. No, because I kept saying, John, is that you in the background? I can't.
No, maybe it wasn't coming through then.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to
we
fix
just
that here in the next few days.
couldn't hear. Sorry about that.
That's all
So,
right.
tell us, what's going on in the world today?
Well, we've got something pretty big going on. Remember I sort of said to you, I think I mentioned this a few times, the mid-cap, has got an incredible chart where it's starting to break out to the upside. And if you think about it, the mid-cap probably stands to benefit. The other day we had the deregulation passed not Dodd-Frank, which is helpful to the banks.
What's the
To
symbol
lend
for the
money to
mid-cap,
small
John? I want to try to bring up.
EMDM. Remember we did this a long time ago. EMDM 17 for me, or EMDM 7.
Okay, I've got it. EMDM 7. Okay, I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Russell. They're like peas in a pod. They're kind of like twins, these two. Unfortunately, for some reason, I don't have the Russell.
Oh, you know what? It would be EMDU. Well, that's because the ICE exchange started charging for the Russell data, so you have to actually pay for that data separate from everything else.
Yeah, I think I tried to get it. It's difficult on the system I have.
Well, they charge I think $110 or $115 a month, but next month the Russell is leaving the ICE exchange and coming back home to the CME. So we don't know if the CME is going to take away the data fee. And also what ICE did is they not only started charging for the data, but they whacked the point value from $100 a point down to $50 a point. So we're hoping things will go back to normal when it gets back home to
they're pretty much mirror each other, indices. And the mid-cap is actually a pretty good trading index right now. It's $100 a point, so it's quite a big deal.
It is 100 a point, okay.
Yeah, so today, look, we've been very bullish on this index and the TNA as well, which I think is making new highs today as well. But look, if you look at the chart, we're going to break. We're breaking out. We're breaking out on the Dow today, and we're breaking out of that consolidation on the mid cap. That jeepers, the upside potential of this is very, very big. And that's why I'm fairly confident we're going to see a pretty big rally in the next 3 months off this amazing 6-month base that's been building in the mid-cap. And the fact that we're breaking up above it right now is a very, very bullish. And the fact that the small, the broadest index, if you like, is actually setting the tone and setting the new highs. It's a pretty big deal. So because what it tells you is there's a lot more upside to go. And one of the reasons why the mid cap is doing so well is because the freeing up of the regulations and easing up the banks to lend more money is good for small business. And so it's generally, just one sec, sorry.
I just checked the volume, guys, and I don't see much volume. I kicked it over.
Sorry about that.
So the mid cap, it doesn't have a lot of volume compared to the other.
True.
And okay.
Yeah. That's why it'd be good to have the other indices, but it's a very good indicator, notwithstanding.
Gotcha.
And the TNA is a pretty good trader as well. They kind of, seem to get. Now look, the market's turning very bullish as we speak because of the Dow in particular is about to go through upper 100 for the day, and S&P's up 10 points. So it feels to me like we're going to gain more traction as the day goes on, and the FANGs are going higher again. We sold the FANGs a while ago for a pullback, set to get back long, and we're back long the FANGs. Facebook's making a new high right now. The LABU is potentially breaking out here. I'd be back long the LABU. The VIXs are plunging, so there's no premium for the sell-off to continue. Obviously, there's an issue with the Fed tomorrow where we could have some volatility, but it kind of looks like the Fed is going to get the market to go higher one way or another. Now
the consensus on the street is still that they are going to raise, correct?
I'm not buying it, to be honest with you. I mean, look, I may be wrong, but it seems to me that they're going to put it off for a little while longer because the statistics are being very weak. The only thing that might, prompt them to raise is that the producer price index was up 0.03% today, so that's actually quite an increase, and that's helping the gold possibly bottom out here. I think the lows are in on the metals, especially if we get some kind of a upsurge tomorrow on whatever the Fed says. We're not out of the woods yet. The gold stocks were very strong earlier in the day. Now they're coming off again. We're actually long the dust at the moment, and off the lows around about 28.20, 28.50 at the moment. I've been off and on with Mike. He's made some good calls in the last few days. He's got a knack of
Mike B, one of our partners.
Yeah. He's got a knack of calling good entry points on the nugget, and he's done very well.
Well, good for him.
Today, actually.
Glad to hear that.
And again yesterday, but the nugget went up yesterday, then went down, but nevertheless, he's got a knack for picking a good entry point for a scalp, and he's a scalper. He doesn't hang around if it's going the wrong way, so he's pretty good at that. That's what we do, what we try and do as well, basically. The energy is, we as you know, we've been kind of to buy the dips on the energy. The energy is definitely, potentially rallying into something positive, possibly another inventory drop in the, this afternoon or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I think if we got any kind of a surprise inventory drop, there'll be a big rally in the energy. Not guaranteed, of course, because if we get a surplus, it might be the other way around. But right now, the fact that we're rallying, I mean, look, it's a tradable rally, and it's a rally you can make money off without, putting your head on the block ahead of an announcement. But I'm not sure I'd want to necessarily have a position, on the announcement, because it's but since we called the lows, we got in, 3/4 of a point lower than where we are right now, and a few points lower on the product. We could potentially go into the afternoon long and take a risk on it. It might, because I don't think it's going to collapse unless we get a massive inventory build. So that's the take. I mean, I'd say it's probably better to stand aside and get back in after the news comes out, depending on how the news plays out. If we get confirmation on an inventory drop tomorrow, then I think and it's a big one, the crude really could rally a lot. Excuse me. But the thing that's keeping a lid on the crude is the production in the U.S. is really increasing quite remarkably. We're almost at new decade highs in production right now. We've kind of taken back the 1 million barrels. We're producing 1 million barrels more than we were about a year ago, which is 1 million, after we lost 1 million initially from the 14 high. So I think we're back to 9 million barrels a day, something like that, getting up towards 10 million barrels a day, which is the highest output since the 70s. So, but we still have to import another nearly 9 or 10 million barrels a day just to keep going. So it's there's a long way to go before the U.S. is going to be self-sufficient in oil. It'll take probably at least 5 years for that to happen, maybe 10, if it's going to happen at all. But, this shale thing, while it's going well at the moment, it's got a habit of running out. They may find that the low-hanging fruits, which is what they're picking at the moment, disappears after a while. And also depends on the rest of the world. How look, what happened? What do you think would happen if one of the big wells in Saudi Arabia ran out of oil? I mean, it could happen. It happened in Mexico. It happened to the biggest oil well in the world, which is the Candarell field offshore. I mean, that field used to do 3 million barrels a day, and it's doing about 600,000-700,000 a day right now. And the only reason it's doing that is because they're pumping a massive amount of nitrogen into the under the sea to force the oil out of what's remaining there. And the structure of this well is very much like this Gal well in Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest producer in Saudi Arabia. If that well suddenly ran out, it would change the dynamics of the oil market overnight. So, and it might cast a doubt on the longevity of Saudi reserves. So, these things can happen, and I think they're going to happen, in the next 7 years, when we probably get the second spike in the upside. Then you've got the potential war that could unfold in the Middle East that could really cause oil prices to go dramatically higher. So, these things that are out there, and you got to keep in mind, could break out at any time. But right now, look, we had this shakeout a few days ago. It seems to have steadied itself, and we're kind of back on track. And actually, if we get a push off this Fed tomorrow, and we start pushing really back to the all-time highs in the FANGs and things, it's going to turn the whole market very bullish, more bullish even than it was a week ago. So, and here we are, we're 21,320 on the Dow now, on the Dow futures at least, and we've only got less than 700 points to go to 22,000 now. It seems to me like we're on our way to going there, no matter what. So, and especially when you get, the broadest index and the narrowest index both going up together to all-time highs on the same day, it's pretty constructive. It's pretty constructive to the overall story. So things could not be going better, except to have a better employment report than we had last month.
Well, we're at 17-year lows if you believe the fairy tale numbers that were fed. I mean, and whether you believe them or not, you have to trade them because they are the numbers. And I was talking to a guy yesterday. My air conditioner went out. My air conditioner went out, and a guy from my church owns his own air conditioning company. It's a small company. He's got a nice truck with the equipment and his name on the side of the truck, but he can't hire employees to keep up. He doesn't even do any advertising. When it gets to be 100, 110 here in Phoenix, everybody's air conditioner goes on the fritz. So he's got more work than he can handle, and he can't. He said it's the most frustrating thing in the world, because I was talking to him about how he could expand his business and who his competitors were, and he goes, Dwayne, it's so disconcerting. He says, yeah, I'd love to grow my business, I'd love to expand. He said, but even at $15 an hour, he goes, I can't hire unskilled labor. Because I'd like to hire skilled labor, somebody that's gone to one of these technical schools and learned HVAC. He said, but those guys are getting $25, $30 an hour in entry-level positions. And he said, it's difficult for me to compete with that, because I said, would a cash infusion help? Not that I had money to, cut him a check on the spot to invest in his business. He said it would, but I think I would just end up with the same problem on a larger scale. And so then I said, well, how about this? I go, in Phoenix, yes, we have good employment, but there's still places like the Appalachia where people don't have any jobs. I said, you could advertise in a small newspaper there and bring people out here. You got to set them up with an apartment and whatnot, but they're away from family, away from friends, so you sort of have a captive audience. And of course, you got to interview them well over the phone and whatnot before you bring them out. I said, but that might be, you could probably get some $10 an hour workers because they'd be just so happy to have a job. And he said the only problem with that, he said, as soon as the temperatures drop in October, he goes, my phone goes dead until the mercury starts to rise come springtime. I said, oh, that is a dilemma. He said, I would feel terrible to bring somebody out here, and they could be working out fantastic, but if my phone doesn't ring, I have no work for them. So it's just quite a conundrum. Small businessmen never have it easy, it's all.
Well, the good news is there's all-time record job openings. More than 6 million jobs are open right now in the U.S. That's never happened before.
Well, that's good for the employees, but it's very tough on the small businessman. I remember back in I think it was 99, we had unemployment levels right about where we are now, and I paid more than minimum wage, but I had almost an impossible time hiring entry-level workers because they could get more than minimum wage across the street at McDonald's, plus they got a uniform. Women love a man in uniform, so I couldn't compete. I had no uniform. I bought T-shirts, but it's not the same. So but I guess that's a good problem for the economy to have. Maybe not so good for the
absolutely
businessman.
And the U.S. is in a lot of better shape than in Australia, where the minimum wage is $20 an hour just for anybody. That's as a businessman, it's really hard to pay that per hour.
Now, what's the Australian dollar at right now? I mean, what's that equivalent to a U.S. dollar?
70, hang on a second.
I was going to guess 75 cents.
75, it's about, three-quarters, 75. Okay. So,
but still, I follow you. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And the Australians, they laugh at us because of how hard we work. Over there, you start out a job with 2 weeks paid vacation, and then year 2, I think it goes up to like 30 days. I mean, they really have a handle on enjoying life. They don't sell their soul to the company.
you can almost make you can become a millionaire in 10 years emptying the garbage out there. It's really amazing. they pay them about $100,000 a year. It's such a lousy job, and they have to pay it.
So what do you think's behind Jeff Sessions claiming invoking executive privilege?
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I think the whole thing, this Mueller guy, with all his hiring all these Democrats, it just stinks to high heaven. It's just more of the same, and this whole thing is a disaster that should never have happened. I mean, it's a real stitch job by Comey, and it's pretty sneaky and below the belt, to try and get back at Trump for being fired. I mean, that's basically what it's all about, and I think it's a disgrace. And it just shows you. Look, why he hasn't been investigating the leak was because it's probably the FBI has been leaking a lot of the stuff that's been going on.
Right.
Who knows? That's what it seems like to me.
This Jeff Sessions a pretty straight-laced guy. In fact, he has.
He's a good fellow. Well, did you hear that? I don't know whether you saw. I was thinking of you when I saw this Carson last night. Just happened to catch a clip where he talked about the actual meeting, the so-called meeting he had with Kislyak.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for this? He was, and they had a eyewitness who verified it. It was at the convention. He gave a speech, and about 100 ambassadors were in the room, and they all came up and they just kind of shook his hand, and that was it. That was the extent of the meeting, and they call that a meeting. I mean, give me a break. And so the only other meeting was, I believe, he had a very brief meeting in the Senate office, which was kind of a in and out kind of thing. And now they're trying to say he had a third meeting, which he probably didn't even have. It's just a complete nonsense. It's all this nonsense they've been pushing about Russia and these meetings and coercion, collusion. It's all, we said it here months ago on this show, it was all a pack of lies, and that's all it is. And did you watch the Putin interview last night?
No. Well, what channel was that on?
On Showtime. It's a 4-day event. It's at 9 o'clock.
Really, on Showtime?
You got it.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be repeating the show, and it might even be there on the internet. It's probably worth watching the first show before you get to the second one tonight. But it's a can't miss show, because Oliver Stone, for all his, for whether you like the guy or not.
Oh, this is a movie. Okay, it's not a straight up interview. It's who plays?
No, it's a series. He spent 2 years interviewing Putin at different points, and out of that, they've put together 4 hours of an interview with Putin. And a lot of what he says is what the Americans don't understand, most of them, because they've been fed all this Cold War nonsense. Is the Russians? I mean, here we are. We're like hugging the Japanese and the Germans, like they've been friends all our lives, and these people have killed more Americans than anybody in history.
Right. Right.
They were brutal, sworn enemies. They attacked us in the most cowardly way in Pearl Harbor, and all these other places, in Europe, and it's just terrible. And here we are. If it wasn't for the Russians, we wouldn't have won the World War II. Plain and simple. The Russians and the Americans are what turned the tide. It wasn't just the Americans; it was the Russians. The Russians lost 40 million people in World War II. 40 million.
You gotta watch Man in the High Castle. It's on Netflix or Amazon. It's out there, but either Netflix did it or produced it, or Amazon. I think Netflix produced it. Man in the High Castle, and it's the story of what if America had not won World War II, and America's divided sort of down the middle. Nazi Germany owns the eastern half, and Japan owns the western half, and of course, both are plotting. The Japanese are plotting against the Germans to take over, but then there's the subplot about some guy who has these films, and the films show America winning the war. So there's like an alternate reality thing. I think they could have left that whole business out about these mystery films and this alternate reality thing, and just done the plot simply on the fact that we didn't win World War II. Imagine the world that we would live in today.
No, it would be terrible.
Oh,
but the
goodness.
thing is, the Russians. It's interesting because it talks about the first, the 90s in this interview last night, and the Russians were when Putin took over, the place was a disaster, and he's done an incredible job straightening the country out. And look, the U.S. is 100%. This is something I just picked up yesterday. I knew this already, but Putin's done a lot of things that we were trying to do, like introduce a 13% tax, for example, and having only 12 or 13% debt to GDP ratio versus if Russia was like America, if you extrapolated it out to the 20 trillion, America would have 20 trillion in debt. Russia, extrapolating it out to the same size as the States, right?
Yeah.
Multiplying it by two, I guess. Russia would only have the equivalent of maybe 3 trillion or even 2 trillion, something like that. It'd be 2.5 trillion.
Well,
so that's how much better their economy.
Well, that's what I want to ask about their economy in Russia. Is there a middle class today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Russian, there is a fairly substantial middle class in Russia.
Okay, so they're doing okay.
Look, they obviously went through a hell of an adjustment when the price of oil got cut in half. That definitely hurt them a lot, but they've kind of got over it, and they're definitely doing a lot better now. And the Russian economy is coming back quite strongly. But I believe that a lot of what he said yesterday is very real, and he's a very pragmatic guy, and he certainly wants to look. They are very misunderstood by a lot of things. Look, maybe he's done some bad stuff in the past, but that's why the Republicans and all these zealots are after him all the time. But they don't understand the Crimea situation. I mean, Crimea has been in Russia for 300 years, and for some reason, I think it was Khrushchev or somebody gave Crimea to Ukraine because he came from Ukraine originally. So that really upset a lot of Russians, and so getting Crimea back is sort of really, it's their birthright kind of thing, to have it back. And that's so, and the fact of the matter is they didn't have to put convoys of troops into Crimea. They were already there. They pretty much owned Crimea before it became officially back to Russia again. So it's kind of blown out of all proportion, this Crimea. And like I said before, I think that Obama could have gotten a deal with Putin if they'd stopped it right there and said, okay, listen, you can keep Crimea, but keep your hands off the rest of Ukraine. Maybe they could have avoided a lot of war and bloodshed and maybe even shooting down that plane. But that's gone out the window now, so, at least if they hands off Ukraine from now on, maybe that's the best they can get. But the other interesting thing is they just opened up Ukraine to having visa-free entry into Europe. So that's one step closer. Yeah, that's one step closer to the Ukraine becoming part of Europe. And I don't think the Russians are too keen on that. But it's part of, the disintegration of the Soviet Union that's still ongoing. So, and if that's what the Ukrainians want, then let them, I think that's a better situation than necessarily being a satellite of Russia again. So, but I think that beyond this, a lot of good things are going to work out with Russia in due course. And Putin, they started all these demonstrations. I mean, RT I watch RT quite often, and I didn't see anything that was.
Is that the Russian Times or what?
The Russian TV station.
Russian television. Okay.
Russian, yeah. It's mostly American and English anchors. It's kind of like Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera used to be the worst TV station in the world, and they've really cleaned it up, and it's a pretty good news station these days. And so does RT, and I don't remember seeing anything particularly, obtuse where people were trying to elect Republicans or Democrats during the election. They were just reporting the news, and they were reporting it in a lot better way than the U.S. was, with all these people trying to impose their opinions. Because the news channels today they're not reporting the news anymore.
No, it's all opinion. It's all opinion.
They're pompous and stitched up opinions,
yeah,
and drivel that we have to listen to every day. So here's the point. Yesterday, CNN sort of jumped on this and has been hammering on about all these protests in Russia, and CNN gets watched in Russia. So, they are effectively interfering with the Russian election coming up by reporting this news.
Yeah.
How they report this news, and
right.
Obviously Putin would be potentially pretty upset about that, and that's why I think that Trump could seize the initiative here. And if he was, he's going to meet Putin in less than a month, and if he was able to hammer out a deal with Putin, whereby they sign a non-interference pact in each other's elections, that would suck the oxygen, that would take the initiative completely out of the hands of the Democrats overnight, and make them look pretty stupid. And then I think it could go one step further and have an anti-hacking agreement as well, and with no refuge for any hackers. Just treat them just like terrorists. You remember when George Bush said, "You're either with us or you're against us"?
Well, they are. That's what they are. They're digital terrorists.
Yeah. If you harbor a terrorist, we're going to go after you. And I think if you harbor a hacker, it's the same fate. And I think that has to happen from now on, because they've got to stop this hacking cold.
Such a difficult thing to. I mean, we're in such a new world. I mean, they can hack your blender. I mean, they can come into your home through the Internet of Things. One of the devices that my wife got sent to review the other day was the beginning of the Apple's HomeKit, where, I mean, you can be in Tokyo and you can turn your air conditioner on and off with your cell phone. And so she was sent some of that equipment to test and review. And it is, a neat little trick, but that stuff was never created with security in mind. So it's so hackable. And I don't know, do you know what a Raspberry Pi is? And I'm not talking lunch.
No, I don't.
It's this little tiny card like you would see in a computer, but it's an entire computer on the card. Remember when we were kids, you would go to Radio Shack and you would buy these hobby kits and put together your own AM radio and stuff like that?
Is that the thing that goes in the ATM machines that they put?
Let me.
Or the gasoline stations,
Well, no. This is something that it's a computer on a card. It's got HDMI inputs, Wi-Fi. I mean, but people are hacking the Raspberry Pis that they find on the internet, and because the price of Bitcoin has gone so high, it's now once again profitable to mine for Bitcoins. So I'm looking here, the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B at Walmart. It's $37. And when you look at the picture, I know you can't see my screen, but I'm going to read you the specs on this thing. I mean, you hold it in the palm of your hand. It just looks like a computer card. And you can put it into whatever you want and create whatever you want. The Raspberry Pi 3 Model B board features a quad-core, 64-bit ARM Cortex A53 clocked at 1.2 gigahertz. The Pi 3 features onboard 802.1 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.0, and that's it's $39. I mean,
Yeah, pretty amazing.
yeah. So people are figuring out all kinds of ways to build all kinds of things. It's the new Radio Shack version of what many of us grew up with as kids. I mean, you can turn it into a media center because it's got the HDMI inputs, and it's really changing the world. It's playing a huge part. I mean, you're literally buying a computer, a functioning computer, for $39. You got to hook up a keyboard, you got to hook up a mouse, you got to hook up a monitor of some kind. But yeah,
Okay,
Google it later. It's just Raspberry Pi, Pi.
No, I will do.
I'm going to go to Raspberry Pi projects here. And then I'm going to have to run, John. I got an old friend who's a new guest on the show today. And
Great.
he's in the wings waiting. Let's see. Easy projects for beginners. Here's what. For students who love to create games, artwork, or music, Science Buddies has put together a kit that allows all of these things with a modern twist, interactivity. The Science Buddies Raspberry Pi Project Kits teaches students basic programming and electronic skills so they can use sensors, sounds, images, and lights to create interactive projects. Perfect for students who are looking for a fun learning toy, as well as for those who want to build unique science and engineering projects. Kit is easy to use and comes with on-screen step-by-step instructions for 8 projects to get students set up and developing. So I bought one for my son some time ago, and my wife hasn't given me the nod to give it to him yet because he's 15, and the internet can be a very dark place for a 15-year-old. It can be a wonderful place of information and knowledge, but there's some bad stuff out there. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, when you and I were kids, you know, we might have had a 10-year-old Playboy under our mattress that, you know, was all dog-eared and torn because it had been passed down for years. But kids today, you give them a cheap Walmart Android cell phone, and some of the most horrific visual things from pornography and beyond is like, 2 clicks away, and it's free, and it is warping the minds of today's youth, and I'm very concerned about it. And my son is a good kid. I mean, he's in the junior ROTC. He says yes sir and no sir. He has respect for people. He's not afraid of hard work. He just came off this junior ROTC camping trip where he excelled at everything from climbing the walls to, in fact, they had an endurance race where you carried these like jerry cans full of gas or something, and you could carry 1 can or 2. He chose to carry 2, and his buddy chose to carry 2, but his buddy collapsed on the run. He couldn't carry 2, so my son ended up carrying 3 for half the race. I mean, he's a good kid, but the damn internet corrupts him in some areas, and so it's just really frustrating, Yeah. Really frustrating.
Sounds like he's a chip off the old block you're doing.
Huh?
Yeah, I said he sounds like he's a chip off the old block.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very kind of you to say, John. Thank you. Well, listen, check back with us again tomorrow, same time.
You got it. Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Oh, you know what? Let me ask you a question. Do you have another 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to open Jeff's mic because he said, I really want to talk about Putin, things you've been discussing from a different perspective using verifiable facts. This is what I've been telling people, that my old friend, in fact, he gave one of my first high-paying jobs when I was 21 was working for Jeff, and in the early 80s, I was making $1,000 a week, so that was good money then. But I need a moment or two to tell the audience how thrilling it is to be connected to you and your family and your emotions. Tell you what, Jeff, I'm going to open your mic and introduce you to John, share what you want to about Putin, and then you and I'll do the chit chat and get caught up. So hang on and let me get your mic open. Now, guys, this is the voice from the other side of the aisle. Okay, Jeff, your mic is open.
Okay, so you can hear me now well.
I can. Oh God, I remember that voice so well. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good.
John,
hey,
meet Jeff. Jeff, meet John.
Hey, John, it's a pleasure to meet you. It was
Likewise,
great listening.
likewise.
It was great listening to you.
I'm all ears to hear what you have to say.
Well, just quickly though, I just want to say, yes, I did hire Dwayne, and then Dwayne went to work for the competition across the freeway, and Dwayne worked for me for a couple of years, 2-3 years. He was my top salesperson, day in, day out, week in, week out, always, and I treated him pretty well, and we were really good friends.
Yeah, you did.
We were really close. Then he went to work for the competition. They opened an office for him across the highway. I could throw a rock at his office, and we snagged employees from each other back and forth for a year or two.
Oh, yeah.
He paid a higher commission, got 4 of my best employees. I hired my commissions, got 3 of them back. He hired his commissions, got 1 back. I hired my commissions, got 5 back. Like that. And then Dwayne opened his own office in the same business, and I ran into him years later, and he hired me. And at that time, he had like 2 employees and him in an office the size of a basketball court, 3 desks in the middle of this big room. And I convinced Dwayne to let me manage the office, so I started training classes and built it up to a sizable office. And I think I helped Dwayne earn a boatload of money. And in turn, he paid me extremely well. So Dwayne earned $1,000 a week with me, but I earned 2 to 3 or 4 with Dwayne. Anyway, we did part ways eventually, and I haven't seen him in a long time. And I just can't tell you how thrilled I am, absolutely thrilled to be able to talk to Dwayne again. And this is probably I'm 62 years old, so this is probably one of the highlights of my life.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's very kind of you. I'm excited
really
too.
Well,
I've been following you at a distance for a while because you write so much on Facebook. You're a very prolific writer.
Well, I've published over 70 free ebooks that are between 500 and a couple thousand pages. I'm number 2. I'm in the top 2% of medical book publishers on Academia EDU, which aggregates for 52 million academics, PhDs, and doctors across the world. And so I'm in the top 2%, and my books are really, really good. I just published a book today, posted it to my Facebook page, which is open, so anybody can go there and see it and download it and post comments or whatever.
So on Facebook, they just search for Jeff Prager, Prager.
Right, and there's a hand that says Seek Truth on it.
Okay.
It's my icon. And it's easy to find. And that book I posted today is called Living Superhuman, and it contains a little over 100 peer-reviewed reports and studies with links, active links, hyperlinks to the original documents on ketosis and the ketogenic diet, along with a lengthy narrative on 2,000 years of ketogenesis, and another narrative on explaining what cancer is. But anyway, getting back to Putin, I'm about to publish a book. The subtitle of the book, I got to bring it up here because I can't really remember it that well. The subtitle of the book is The History of the Indoctrination of a Species, More Than 2 Centuries. Oh, you're scrolling up. I can't read it anymore. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, man. Yeah, that's the book. The History of the Indoctrination of a Species, meaning us, and subtitled More Than 2 Centuries of Sophisticated Propaganda, 1800 to 2017. So I'm going to publish that on July 4th. And that's what I wanted to talk about.
Erasing history one generation at a time. Now, this is something, we may diverge, but I believe that my kids are being indoctrinated and taught a history that is not historically accurate. So go ahead.
Well, I believe they are too, and I made some notes on them. So I want to talk about the ROTC and climbing those walls and that endurance race with the 2 and 3 cans. Okay. But let me address Putin. I want to address Putin this way.
Okay.
Okay. There's a guy named Ernie Chambers, Okay, nobody knows who Ernest William Ernie Chambers is. He was born in 1937, and he was the first black man to represent Omaha's 11th district, and the first black man to run for governor, and he didn't win.
In 1937, I didn't know that. Oh.
But he did win the Senate, and he got his law degree in 1979, but he wasn't able to practice law. He refused to pay the bar dues because his argument was he earned the right to practice law by graduating from law school, and he shouldn't have to pay any bar dues, bar association dues, just to practice law. He lost that suit. But what he did do is he went to court, and Ernie Chambers was known as the Maverick of Omaha, or the angriest black man in Nebraska. And he considered himself a defender of the downtrodden, and surely he was. He wore jeans and T-shirts to the legislature and to their sessions, and he brought his dog with him, and he was my kind of guy. Okay. And in 2012, the Nebraska legislature, they declined to pass a bill requiring a daily pledge of allegiance to the U.S. flag in public elementary and secondary schools. So the state
I did not know that.
This is I have a lot of stuff people didn't know. Believe me.
I think my son and daughter go to public school. I think they say the Pledge of Allegiance. Maybe not.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they do.
They do. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll be real. There's not much more, but this is interesting. So in 2012, the Nebraska legislature declined to pass that bill. So the State Board of Education stepped in, and they passed a new rule requiring students to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mm-hmm. Now, even among those people that oppose a mandatory pledge, it's really considered a minor matter. I mean, it's not like everybody's hooting and hollering about, hey, my kid's saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I don't want them to, or I do want them to. It's really no big deal. But Ernie Chambers is a pretty special guy, okay? And Ernie Chambers appreciates children. And Ernie Chambers takes children seriously. And I do too, because I talk to children like I'm talking to adults, because I raised a child myself. And Ernie knows better. And so his conception of the downtrodden does include students coerced into going along with a pledge that they may not wish to say, just to avoid being bullied from their peers for nonconformity. And furthermore, Chambers argued against the pledge, and here was his argument. He argued that the United States is not a nation of liberty and justice for all, and no one should be compelled to say that it is. And furthermore, he argued that there's hundreds of pledges to objects, groups, causes, to other flags, and even to ideals. And we should all agree that we don't want the State Board of Education requiring that our children be led in any pledges, because leading children in oaths and pledges is indoctrination, not education. And Ernie Chambers knows that.
How does this tie to Putin?
Well, you and I would have to discuss this further. I wanted to get that in.
Because I got to say, I am for the pledge, and I'm also for prayer. Back when we had prayer in schools, we didn't have kids killing each other.
Okay, I agree with that. I'll agree with you there, Dwayne. But we also have to factor in that historically, and we know this factually, times change, and with those changing times, over the course of decades, various liberalizations take place and various conservations take place. So there's
for better or worse.
Exactly, for better or for worse, both for better and for worse in both cases.
Right.
So things are going to change. Change is just, if you look up something called the birthday principle, you'll recognize that in that change, or what we call coincidence and serendipity, these are parts of life. Coincidence has to happen, serendipity has to happen within the chaos of life. because physics says they have to happen, and your listeners can look up the birthday principle or the birthday paradox, which explains that. So
let me read this real quick. Birthday problem. By the pigeonhole principle, the probability reaches 100% when the number of people reaches 367, since there are only 366 possible birthdays, including February 29th. However, 99.9% probability is reached with just 70 people, and 50% probability with just 23 people.
Amazing, isn't it?
How's that possible?
It's physics.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing. When you get lower on the 366 or 7, that makes sense because there's only 365 birthdays.
Yeah, that part I understand. Yeah, that part of the equation makes perfect sense.
Right. But when you start dropping down on the scale, the numbers just, they go haywire, and it's unbelievable. So anyway, let's keep that in mind. Okay. And from my perspective, and what my next book, The Indoctrination of a Species book, outlines in great clarity with hundreds and hundreds of documents that people just don't read, because I'm addicted to reading, and I'm retired, and I work with several computers and numerous monitors, and I still have the publishing software I had, publishing Senior Magazine. So I do research and read all day long. It's just what I love to do. And so from my perspective, okay, there are really only about 20,000 people on planet Earth that actually make final decisions that affect all the rest of us. And
I think that's a generous number.
Let me hold on, I'm not done.
Okay.
Within those 20,000 people, because that 20,000 people represents minions and family members, aunts, uncles, grandfathers, grandparents. Within that 20,000 people, there are only about 300 people that actually have power, authority, and make decisions. And their power and authority and decision making is not always congenial and agreeable. These people have opposing objectives. They own different commodities, and however, their trading does affect one another. So, we're talking about people similar to George Soros, but we're talking more about families that have been in existence really for centuries.
Rockefeller, Rothschilds.
Yeah, that own the mining, that own the Earth's resources, the agricultural
Federal Reserve.
Yeah, more the resources, the mineral resources, because we're at a point in technology today where coltan and some of the rare earth metals, there's I think 17 of those that are extremely important in technology, in the latest, newest, and future technology. And those are mostly in China, although we do have some rare earth metal mines that are starting to be reopened in California and another couple of states, but they don't have a lot of, the ground quantity is not a lot. China's got the market on that. Okay. But anyway, so with these 300 people, okay, let me explain the war in Syria from my perspective, okay?
All right.
In 1973, Zbigniew Brzezinski went to Afghanistan, and we knew then about the oil and the $1 trillion in gold and other minerals that were in Afghanistan then. Your readers can type into Google Kabul, Kabul, 1966, and you'll see pictures of Afghan kids in college. Kabul University was an international university with students from almost every country in the world. They all dressed like you and me with skirts and blouses and legs showing.
Once upon a time in Afghanistan.
Right. So that's when Afghanistan was completely Americanized, and the college there in Kabul was an international college. And what happened was the Russians had a lot of influence in the government there. And we needed to have influence in the government there. So we, with the CIA, developed several million books at the University of Nebraska. And these books were an Islamic books, textbooks, using the Wahhabi version of Islam promoted by Saudi Arabia. But it was a tweaked version of Wahhabism. It was an extremist version of Wahhabism. So for instance, in the mathematics section of these books, where they were teaching children, what 5 is, there would be 5 pictures of rifles. And for 6, there would be 6 grenades. And for 7, there would be 7 rockets. Now, okay. you can Google this stuff. I'm telling you the truth. Now, these several million books were shipped over to Afghanistan and Pakistan, the border area there of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and almost all of Afghanistan, in 1977, I think it was. And at that point in time, together with Adnan Khashoggi and Saudi Arabia and Osama bin Laden, who was at that time a CIA asset, and Zbigniew Brzezinski and Carter, we funded the building of what in this country and that country we refer to as madrasas, which are really just religious schools, Islamic schools, and we packed them with these books because we needed to develop an extremist ideology to fight the Soviet influence in Afghanistan. And that's where what we called then the Mujahideen came from. If you remember, there's a picture of Ronald Reagan sitting with 6 or 8 Mujahideen in the White House. You can Google that, Ronald Reagan, Mujahideen, White House. And he's shaking hands, and he called them freedom fighters, which technically they were fighting from freedom of Soviet influence. And we gave the Soviet Union their Vietnam. We pushed them out of Afghanistan, and we took over there, and Americanized Afghanistan in that we allowed the Mujahideen and their offshoot, the Taliban, to take over. And so the skirts and the blouses went, and everybody had to cover their heads, and everything changed, and the international students were left or murdered, and that was that.
Oh, can I insert a question real quick?
Sure.
I did just Google Ronald Reagan, Mujahideen Founding Fathers, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Snopes couple, the husband and wife that work out of their living room. I don't put much stock in it at all. Let me. They have said that photo is false. That's the first thing that comes back.
Hang on.
Okay, I just wondered if you knew that. Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm going to find the picture. Where you'll see it's not false. But
like
okay,
I said,
so
the Snopes couple, they don't carry any weight with me. But go ahead.
Well, sometimes Snopes is a good place to go. I go there too. I'm not necessarily sure that I believe everything.
A blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. So, but go ahead.
Okay, so we got rid of Soviet
John,
Union.
you had a comment? Hang on a second, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was intrigued when you mentioned Adnan Khashoggi, as I didn't know him in the 60s, but I actually worked for him in the 70s. In 1974, he was the richest guy in the world, and I worked for him at that time.
Yeah, he's into a lot of things. Richest guys in the world are into a lot of things because they get bored.
In another lifetime, John was the navigator on the Love Boat. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was also the chief officer on Khashoggi's yacht.
Wow.
You were? Okay.
That's something to be proud of. So you spent some time on that yacht.
I sure did. Yeah, Kalidia was the name of the yacht. It was 329 tons, and it was about 136 feet long, and it was a nice. And actually, we were involved in the early stage looking, we visited the Nabila in the shipyard in Genoa where it was being built, and that became, at one point, it became the Trump Princess, and then, it went through a series of owners after Khashoggi got into financial difficulties, and it went to the Sultan of Brunei for a while, and then it went to Trump, and I'm not sure where it went after that, but that was the one was used in the James Bond movie, if you remember.
I don't. I've never watched those.
Yeah, it was a beautiful. I mean, look, today compared to the yachts today, these yachts are really kind of fast job boats.
Yeah, I actually built them in the early '70s in Newport Beach. Hey, Dwayne.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
Hi.
interesting. The other thing is, have you heard of a guy called Alistair Crook?
Yeah, of course.
Since you know so much about the Middle East.
Of course, yeah, I've heard of him. Sure.
He's married to my cousin.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alistair Cook is married to your cousin.
Alistair Crook.
Yeah.
Alistair Cook writes a lot. He's a great author.
MI6, ex-MI6.
Yeah, he's a great author, and he's a liberal. He's on the liberal side. He's kind of like sometimes anti-MI6. Am I right?
Yeah, he's a bit of a loose cannon, that's for sure.
Yeah, loose cannon. Okay, yeah, I was trying.
Married.
He's your family. I was trying to be nice. He's a loose cannon. He hates MI6. He's totally liberal.
Yeah, well, look,
he blows the whistle on it.
He's kind of he was kind of for this Iranian stuff, which I don't agree with by any means.
No.
But I think he's actually separated now from my cousin, but still.
Well, listen, Dwayne, I gotta clear this up.
Fuad in the audience says that he's an arms trader, so.
Well,
I don't know much about that.
That's a great business. I'm glad I'm not in it. Dwayne.
Yeah.
I got to clear this up, okay?
Okay.
You got to type Photons House, PHOTON, photonshouse.com / Ronald-Reagan- official - white -
Yeah.
house -
Yep.
photo.html, and scroll down. They're all official White House photos. He's in there with the
HTML.
no. You got Photo House Design and Interior.
White House. Well, it took me to the Ronald Reagan official White House photo.
Okay, and you can scroll down at all kinds of photos, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, if you scroll down far enough, you'll see Ronald Reagan with the Taliban. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, there's a lot of photos on it, so I'm scrolling.
Him and Nancy, Nancy has a red jacket on. Him and Nancy are sitting together with a red jacket. It's right below that.
Okay. Oh, there's Nancy with the red jacket, and there's that same photo. Yep. Foreign policy of the Ronald Reagan administration. Wikipedia is
the source. You probably click on the source, and it'll probably tell you, yeah, there's the link, and it'll have that photo somewhere.
Here's King Fahd of Saudi Arabia with President Reagan in front of the fire.
Right. So let me get back to what I was saying. Okay. So we needed the Mujahideen with their excited radical form of Wahhabi Islam. We needed them stirred up. And there's a quote by Zbigniew Brzezinski that directly addresses this. I can't quote exactly, but he says somebody was talking about the deaths related to our wars in Afghanistan. And he said, "What's worse, a bunch of dead people or a bunch of stirred up Muslims or something like that?" But he said a bunch of stirred up Muslims, referring to the Mujahideen, who his CIA plan and the textbooks they designed created radical Islam. So radical Islam was created by the United States CIA. Now, when we needed regime change in, you probably heard Wesley Clark. He said, "Hey man, I just was in the White House and I talked to some guy in the Pentagon, and he said we're going to attack 7 states in 7 years, and Iraq, Iran, blah 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 blah," and he listed off all these states. Well, these were states that have been U.S. foreign policy for 25 years in writing. Mm-hmm. If you read West Point documents and other foreign policy documents at the Brookings Institute, where I read, and at Washington Institute, they're Republican Democrat think tanks. it's been our policy for regime change in these countries for 25 years. Well, more than 25 years, been writing for 25 years. And so it's just, presidents come and go, but the military and the military industrial complex and the hundreds and thousands of people around the president stay there for decades. And so foreign policy continues. So when we needed regime change in Iraq, we took the Mujahideen and created a database, which is what the word Al-Qaeda stands for. And that database was the Mujahideen, several factions that we had, the CIA had paid and was paying. And we funneled those people over to Iraq as Al-Qaeda.
What kind of bird you got?
That's outside.
Is that outside? Oh my gosh!
I'm on an inside porch. I'm on a big porch inside.
Oh my goodness! That's wild.
Yeah. So that's where Al Qaeda came from. We got into a problem with Osama bin Laden. The problem was that he was a CIA asset, and the CIA asset can tell tales. So he had to go, and he did. And Al Qaeda was morphed into ISIS, and we are the ones who funded and indirectly funded and supplied ISIS. So here we are in the U.S. indoctrinating our children in ROTC programs because the global elite look at the billions of us as expendable, and we fight their wars for them. They perpetuate their dynasties. And we, the people, fight their wars for them. As the decades and centuries have passed, they have found more and more clever methods to absorb as much of our work product, our finances, as possible through a wide variety of hundreds of taxes and fees and registrations and all sorts of things. And they have managed to indoctrinate the entire population to support wars within their borders. So everybody within the borders of the United States is going to support the wars that the United States government wants to fight, and everybody within the borders of Saudi Arabia is going to support their government's wars. And it's simply a matter of about 300 families across the planet fighting over resources and playing chess games with people that are no more people to them than chess pieces. And
right.
So that's where you
sound a lot like my Wednesday co-host Wayne Jett, who wrote the book The Fruits of Graft: Great Depressions Then and Now. The starving of the American people by him was completely planned and carried out by the ruling elite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it was.
I'd never heard that until he mentioned it, but the more I listen to him, the more sense he seems to make. So,
I read this book by Charlotte Iserbyt, and Charlotte Iserbyt was the executive director of the Department of Education under the Reagan administration. So she was the top education director in the federal government under Reagan. And once she left that post, she wrote a book called The Dumbing Down of America. And she tells this interesting story about this young teacher who was chosen by Charles Dewey, and a few other of the top educators in the world. This was between 1920 and 30. And this young teacher was chosen to participate in this roundtable meeting about designing the mathematics program for the elementary and high school classes. And so this young guy, he after these meetings, he took Dewey aside. He said, if we teach math like this, these kids, they're not going to understand anything. And Dewey said, my friend, that's the point. We don't want them to understand mathematics. And so, it's and this is the reason, you've done very, very, very well financially, but you and I both know you had to work your tail off to learn what you learned, which is a massive amount of information, to be able to make a few bucks, to be able to do what you're doing.
Well, the only reason I was number one when I worked for you was not because I had the natural talent and gift of gab that so many of the others had. I just worked harder. You know,
right. Well, you and I did the same
if
thing.
they made 50 calls, I made 200. You know,
right. You and I did the same thing. It's a numbers game. You and I both knew the more calls we made, the more sales we'd make, and so you and I operated the same way on the phone. I mean, I think we hung up, and as soon as we knew there wasn't a sale, we hung up the dial bank's number.
No sense beating a dead horse, man. Cut
right,
loose.
but I'm talking about your financial decisions since then. You know, since buying HandyNet and buying the church and investing money. You know, you've made very, very good financial decisions. And to get to that point, you did not get that education in junior high or high school like children did in the 1800s. You see, and it was when the country developed the concept of public schools and enacted the laws that required children to go to public schools that they recognized their ability to indoctrinate the population. And the very bottom line is that this country cannot operate unless we have people in McDonald's, greeters at Walmart, cashiers, janitors, fruit pickers, street sweepers, and all of the bottom of the barrel jobs.
Right.
We can't. It won't operate. And so the system has to produce those people, and it's designed to do that. The system is designed between the kindergarten or preschool through the last year of high school to separate the very top achievers from the children who are bored stiff, because the school, what you're learning, is absolutely the most boring material you could possibly learn.
Are you familiar with the Common Core curriculum?
Yeah.
Which I'm very much against. And the way they're teaching my kids math today,
it's absurd.
I'm no rocket scientist, but when my kids come home from school and want me to help them with their math, I mean, I can do the math, but Dad, they don't want us to do it that way.
Okay, I learned Common Core. I had a need to understand Common Core because I was involved with a child that was learning Common Core.
Okay.
So I had to learn it.
All right.
And it's a, all I can say, Dwayne, is it's really a ridiculous way of teaching mathematics.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
It has concepts that do have value. In other words, it was designed with value in mind. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the people that designed the system could clearly see what value it would have to children, because it allows them to look at mathematics from a different perspective than you and I did. However, it's not practical, and it's not easily applicable in today's world, nor will they ever use those concepts in the future, because they're just going to type 5 + 5 on a keyboard, right, and the screen is going to tell them what it is.
They don't even teach them how to write in cursive anymore. And I complained about that when I was in a closed-door meeting with a bunch of PhDs, and they said, well, all he needs to know is how to sign his name. She said, because in the future he'll never have the need to actually write. And I said, do you understand the insanity of what you're saying? And they're like, well, perhaps you should rethink your ideas about the future.
Well, they're wrong. Okay, I do certain things for certain people. Like right now, I'm handling a foreclosure with Wells Fargo Bank and a law firm I don't want to name in Dallas, and a homeowner in Colorado. And so we sent letters to everybody, and the bank and the law firm is now dealing with me. And so, I'm having conversations with people whose names I have to write down. I have to write down and make notes on those conversations. I can't type fast enough. I have to write them down. And I have to keep a track of what I say and what they say and who says what to who.
Right.
And, I take notes daily. I mean, I have 2 different pads for 2 different reasons, and I take notes daily in both of them.
There's an app for that.
Yeah, well, I'm 62 years old. I'd rather write it down. and my computers are sometimes doing other things, I mean, I have more than one, but they're sometimes doing things. And,
Right.
and, and it's just not handy. But a pad and a pen I got 25 pens right here on my desk and my 2 pads and scrap paper. So I agree with you. Cursive should still be taught. Writing should still be taught. It's a lot different handwriting a novel or your daily what do you call those things? Diary with a pen and a piece of paper than it is typing, and it's more motivating. And
my kids say yes,
personal.
sir, and no, sir, yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And some of these academics look at me like I'm trying to turn my children into slaves or something. I mean, go ahead.
Hey, Wayne, we all have, listen, remember when you and I were, 19, 20 years old and we got that 700-page parenting book?
I don't think I got that book.
You don't remember that?
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't get it either.
Oh, okay.
You see, nobody did.
I got you. Okay.
We all raise our children not knowing a damn thing, and we do the best we can. And,
yeah, but at
we
least
hope
you had youth on your side. I started raising kids at like 49. Raising kids is definitely a young man's game. I got to tell you.
No, I don't. I think you're wrong. I think that it's a young man's game in terms of energy.
Yes.
But
yes.
in terms of intellect, it is definitely an older man's game, and you have a much better head start than I did because your intellect has increased, and at 49, it's far superior to mine was when I was 32. So, nevertheless, my daughter's an RN, and she's a good kid, and I'm sure your kids will turn out just the same.
Your daughter was always a great kid.
Yeah, she was a cool kid. I was very liberal with her, but I was also very strict. I mean, it was a very strong combination of both. I was extremely conservative and strict in a lot of ways, and I was very, very, very liberal in a lot of ways, and still am. If I could carry a gun on my hip everywhere I go, I would.
Yeah.
And if I could
move to Arizona, you can.
And if I could smoke pot out in the open, I would.
Yeah, you can't.
Right, and those are two liberal and conservative issues. That liberals are very
pot smoking gunslinger.
With the Constitution in my back pocket.
Right. Well, Jeff Sessions says he's going to put a stop to that nonsense as soon as he gets time.
Well, he's not. I wrote a book. It's called Opinions of the Constitution in 1787. And it's the part they left out in high school and college. And it's the actual opinions of people in 1787 when the Constitution was voted for. Mm-hmm. And if we had the internet then, it would be their posts. Instead, we had gazettes and newspapers and periodicals, and it's their posts.
When our founding fathers gave Americans freedom of the press, they never dreamed that the common man would ever be able to afford a printing press. But if you got a library card, you can you can write whatever you want and put it out there for the world to see. So.
Well, I agree with the library card part, and I've always had one. Those are, libraries, a window to the world. But here's the deal, okay? Alexander Hamilton worked for the Rothschilds while the Constitution was being debated. And by the way, most people don't know this. The U.S. Constitution was debated at the Philadelphia Convention of 1787 over several days, and it was debated entirely in secret. And the notes taken by James Madison took prolific notes, and so did another guy. Those notes were sealed until the last member of the debate died, which was almost 50 years, and Madison was the last member of the debate to die. And his notes were not published until then. So no one for 50 years even knew what took place in the debates over the U.S. Constitution.
Where were these notes held?
In Madison's possession.
Okay. Gotcha.
And the notes are available now. And so during the debates, Alexander Hamilton went off to Europe for 2 weeks and came back. And Franklin, I think, was in Europe, didn't vote at all. Jefferson didn't attend; he didn't want to even vote. And so, and for good reason. And so, there were a total of about 1,500 odd votes. Okay, and about 500 of them voted no. So 33%, give or take, I can't remember, about 33% of the people voting for the new U.S. Constitution did not want to vote for it. And they said things like, and I can't quote it, but it's in my book, they said things like, this document was designed by aristocrats to make aristocrats rich. And they said things like, the people that designed this are feeble-minded and are looking are foregoing liberty for empire. And I mean, the book is full of these quotes from gazettes and newspapers of that time. And so these 500 people had a really different perspective on the U.S. Constitution. Now, you have to understand that out of the 1,500 odd people that voted for the Constitution, roughly 1,400 of them couldn't really read or write too well. And only about 100 of them were actually attorneys and landowners and slave owners and bankers and wealthy people. In fact, in my book, I call them the well-bred, the well-wed, the well-fed, and the well-read. Yeah, wed, bred, fed, and wed, something like that.
Okay.
And those are the people that voted for the Constitution as it is. They debated it heavily, and the U.S. Constitution was designed specifically to do what it does now, and that is create empire. And the way it works is this. There's a guy named Josiah Royce. Josiah Royce was a historian, a very, very well-known historian, and the only historian to write about American history. And what Josiah Royce wrote was this, and I can't do this, I have to do this from memory. He wrote, if rule number one is true, how could rule number two happen? Okay, so rule number one is there are three branches of government that have checks and balances on one another to prevent any one branch of government from running away and doing things they shouldn't do. And then in rule number two, he said, or civic duty, I think he calls them, civic duty number two, he says, well, government has already run away and done things according to the Constitution that they shouldn't do. So if rule number one is true, how could rule number two happen? And what Royce philosophizes, in better words than I can, of course, is that there are no checks and balances in the Constitution. And the way he elucidates that is that there are three branches of government, and no one government has any reason to suppress the desires of any of the other branches. So naturally, the Constitution was designed so that in leapfrog fashion, those are Royce's words, leapfrog fashion, one portion of the government, of the three parts of our government, can leapfrog over one another and continue with their desire for empire. And of course, we see that every day. The U.S. has bombed more countries than any other country on earth, and we're responsible for more innocent deaths than any other country on earth.
Well, we've also done an awful lot of good.
Well, I disagree. If you tell me some good, I'll tell you the bad behind it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we put a stop to Hitler. I mean, that comes to mind. That's off the top of my head.
Well, but we didn't. You see, we funded Hitler. You see, we funded Hitler.
Okay.
And we
Now you just. I've been with you all along. Now you just turned down an alley that.
Well, look it up.
Look
it up. Chase Manhattan Bank.
Okay. I got plenty of rope. Take all you want.
Chase Manhattan Bank, Rockefellers, and let me think. Begins with a W. I can't remember the guy's name, but the other W guy, his bank, and Prescott Bush, and Ford, and IBM, all funded Hitler. IBM provided the machinery to keep track of the slave prisoners. Ford provided the vehicles, and GE provided the liquid, I don't know, it was kerosene or some kind of liquid fuel for his planes or something. And Prescott Bush and Chase and the other bank that begins with Morgan, not W. Morgan. Morgan's bank.
Well, there's no doubt war's good for business. I mean, that's a given.
Well, they all funded Hitler, okay, and then when the war was over,
who copped the drugs for Hitler?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean,
well, no, it is. I mean, he put amphetamines in their ration kits.
The king of Saudi Arabia does drugs. I mean, they all do drugs. To think they don't would be stupid. Yeah. To think these people don't would be stupid. What's his
drug of choice?
Cocaine.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
He just got caught smuggling millions of hits of ecstasy through Lebanon or Jordan. I can't remember which it was. He landed there and had to stay there for a while because they had to take that crap off.
The king of Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, he landed in Jordan. This is just like in the last month.
Mainstream media forgot to tell me about that.
Yeah, they do that. But anyway, so I kind of forget what I was talking about. But
well, you were talking about America, being the bullies of the world and running around.
Oh, yeah. So you said something good.
Were you on Obama's apology tour with him, or?
It's this way, Dwayne. Anything good we do it in a self-serving manner to the max. Yes, we do some bits of good, but that good is so self-serving that it causes more harm than good in the end. Here's what's happening, and here's what you'll see happening as your children grow up. There's a problem in the world, and the problem is that the Philippines, they make T-shirts for 25 cents an hour, and here we make them for $10 an hour. We can't compete with the rest of the world, so there's a homogenization taking place. The third world, the developing world, their standard of living is being slowly increased, while the developed world, us, Italy, Germany, Sweden, so on, our standard of living is being slowly depressed or decreased until there's some middle ground to meet in. That's the only way the international corporations can compete on any level without having wars every 10 minutes. And that's what's happening. We're having wars every 10 minutes because the competition is fierce with those 300 people in control.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, please, John. Come on, share your thoughts.
Yeah, listen, there's a market alert. Look, the metals. We've been talking about the bullish case for the metals.
Yeah.
Earlier on this morning, and they are really starting to accelerate dramatically higher.
We just triggered our buy alert at 1270 that was sent out last night on gold.
Yeah.
What metals?
Well, we called the lows we literally went long. I'm not sure if it was at 1262 or 1263 this morning on the gold. So going through 1270 is a very good place to be right now. And the silver, we actually got the silver better around at 1672, and we're at 1686 right now. And the nuggets, which Mike also called very well, is really acting fantastic here. We've just hit 35 off of 33.
We've got resistance overhead at 75.76.
Have you guys looked at rare earth metals?
You know, I'm familiar with the
Yeah.
term, but John would probably know more about that than I do, for sure.
Yeah. What metals in particular?
Well, there's 17. I guess we could start with coltan.
We're looking at a number of rare earths in this, with a particular company that we're involved in. So that's something on our radar.
Really? In New Mexico? Is there potentially rare earth there? Or rare metals? John? John? We lost your audio.
Did you lose mine?
Yeah. No. I got you. We lost John yesterday too. John, if you can dial back in, and Bert will patch it through.
Okay, so I have rare earths in front of me. The names are so difficult to pronounce that I kind of forgot which was which and what was what. But some of the rare earths that I would be interested in, or let me rephrase that. Some of the rare earths that I know are being used right now are yttrium, which is Yttrium,
Mm-hmm.
and lanthanum and cerium. Neodymium is also having some popular use. It's used in just about every type of electronics. And samarium will probably get much more use in the medical field as technology progresses. Gadolinium
what's
also.
it used for?
Okay, samarium is it's used in transportation, defense, commercial technologies. It's used for intravenous radiation treatment. It kills cancer cells. It's used to treat lung, prostate, breast, and some forms of bone cancer. And it's a stable neutron absorber, so it's used to control rods of nuclear reactors also.
How long have we had this knowledge?
Oh,
there you are, John.
Names again?
Oh, John, you're
Yeah,
back.
can you give us
good.
those names again?
What's that?
Can you give us those names again? Can you give us those names again?
Sure. Yttrium, which is Yttrium, is used in superconductors.
Can you just
read him off the list of names so he can jot them down?
Okay, lanthanum, Lanthanum, Lanth, AN as in Nancy, UM as in Mary, cerium, CERIUM as in Mary, neodymium, NeoDYMIUM.
I've never heard of one of these so far.
Neodymium. Well, the interesting thing is the fact that you mentioned these very rare names. There are some other names, I don't have them right off the top of my hand right now, but there are some. There's an incredible price differential between some of these. If you look at the 17 or so rare earths, there are some that are going for $7,500 an ounce or a pound, or just really, really incredibly expensive. I've got a list of them elsewhere, but we've got a project where we actually believe we have quite a high concentration of all these rare earths in this, and we've done assays on them. And actually the valuations were up to $10,000 a ton on this stuff. So it's really dramatic. How they can, even if you've got gold and silver in there, if you get these rare earths showing up in really minute quantities, they can make a huge difference to the actual value per ton.
I will email you, Jeff, a 300-page research report on the project that he's referring to.
Okay, yeah. I just I don't know much about investing. What I do know is that the rare earths are going to see extraordinary growth in use, which tells me the prices are going to go up.
Sure. And
I know that their availability across the planet is very limited.
Right.
Especially
China has a lock on them, and actually New Mexico has the highest concentration of rare earths in the United States right now.
Yeah, and California is opening 2 rare earth mines in California.
California is a contender as well, definitely. Yeah, look, we got something really extraordinary going on here with these golds.
Well, I'm watching gold. We just broke through our 1270 trigger. What's platinum doing?
And look, platinum turned. It hasn't really taken off yet, but I think platinum is a buy here, and I think that it might actually surprise by how much it goes up. Once it gets its mojo going, could really move a lot. And even though it feels like it keeps getting beaten down, this might be the last time that happens. Look, Newmont, Royal Gold itself, GOLD, they're all soaring after being pretty beaten up earlier on today. So this is an incredible day. It's a very rare day. This is one of those days that starts out very kind of, it actually starts out weak and turns and then gets strong. That's usually means we're at the beginning of a very, very big trend. And since I'm in the middle of writing a massive report on gold, that is going to be a real eye-opener, and hopefully it'll be available in a few days. I mean, when you see some of the evidence I'm presenting as to why gold is going to go up several fold, and I mean several times in the next few years, and possibly as much as 8 times in the next 7 years, the evidence is very compelling, and there's almost no way it can't happen. It's so baked in the cake. And we're actually running ahead of we're actually running ahead of the trend right now in terms of the cycle. We're already running ahead of where we should be. And by the way, making a bottom like this here in the middle of June is a great place to make the lows on gold for the year, or not
as we head into the wedding season in India.
Precisely.
John, I want to send you a link to the ebook that Jeff just published last night. I don't know if you are familiar where they have an interest in the subject matter, but he used to publish a magazine here in Phoenix called Senior Magazine, and the way he formatted this ebook, and like my wife understood the writing, I just looked at the pictures, but the way he did the imagery and all the photos and pictures, you're going to just be blown away. We really need to talk to him offline about some of the reports we have coming out. Even though he's not into the investment world,
I welcome it. He's a very learned
guy. Great editor, and I mean, he could turn out some really nice reports for us. If he's available for hire, I don't know. But
I could do that. I'd love to.
Can you on those rare earths you just mentioned? Can you just give us a quick summary of the uses for each one, and also if you've got any idea of the pricing on each of those two?
I don't have any idea on the pricing, and I have all
on the semiconductors, right?
Yeah, I've already lost that page, I believe. Let me take a look here and see.
I'm going to ask Google, what rare earth is used in semi?
You know about cobalt. There's a big cobalt is a pretty big deal right now.
Conductors.
They all are doing. Almost all of them.
Almost all of them are used in semiconductors?
Yeah. Yeah. The best place. Okay. Here they are. Okay. There's scandium. That's used in light aluminum alloys for aerospace components. It's an additive.
I think that's one of the ones that's around $7,000 a ton. Scandium.
Yeah. It's an additive in metal halide lamps, and it's used in mercury vapor lamps, and it's used as a radioactive tracing agent in oil refineries. There's yttrium. That's used in aluminum garnet lasers, and in television red phosphorus, high temperature superconductors. It stabilizes zirconia. It's used in microwave filters, energy efficient light bulbs, spark plugs. It's an additive in steel, and it's used for cancer treatments. Lanthanum is highly refractive. It's alkali resistant in glass. It's used for hydrogen storage, battery electrodes, camera lenses, fluid catalytic catalyst, and for oil refineries. Cerium is an oxidizing agent. It's a polishing powder. It's used to color glass yellow and ceramics yellow. It's a catalyst for self-cleaning ovens, and it's used in oil refineries and flint for lighters. There's praseodymium, and that's used in magnets, lasers. It's the core material for carbon arc lighting. It's a colorant in glass and enamels. It's an additive in didymium glass, which is used in welding goggles. And it's used in fire steel or flint products. There's neodymium, which is used in lasers, violet colors in glass and ceramics. It's used in capacitors and electric motors for cars. Promethium is used in nuclear batteries and luminous paint. Samarium is used in rare earth magnets, lasers, neutron capture, masers, and control rods for nuclear reactors. Europium is used in lasers, mercury vapor lamps, fluorescent lamps, and as a relaxing agent. Gadolinium is a high refractive index glass for garnets. It's used in lasers, X-ray tubes, computer memories, neutron capture, MRI contrast agents, as a relaxing agent, and as a magneto-strictive alloy, and as a steel additive. Terbium is used in lasers, for fluorescent lamps, magneto-restrictive alloys, and naval sonar systems, and a stabilizer for fuel cells. Dysprosium is used for lasers, magneto-restrictive alloys, and hard disk drives. Holmium is a wavelength calibration standard chemical used for optical spectrophotometers and magnets. Erbium is used for infrared lasers and fiber optic technology. Thulium, Thulium, is used for portable X-ray machines, metal halide lamps, and lasers. Ytterbium, Ytter, is used for lasers. It's a chemical reducing agent. It's used in decoy flares, stainless steel, stress gauges, nuclear medicine, and for monitoring earthquakes. And lutetium is used for positron emission tomography, PET scan detectors, high refractive index glass, as a catalyst in oil refineries and in LED light bulbs. And that is all of them.
Now,
thank you very much. It's incredible that they're all involved, and that there's a use for a very, very sophisticated use for all of these things.
Yeah, and that use is going to grow. That you can see by what they're used for, that use is going to grow as our ability to employ these technologies grows.
it says the Chinese dominance may have peaked in 2010 when they controlled about 95% of the world's rare earth production, and prices for many rare earth oxides have risen over 500% in just a few years. That was an awakening for rare earth consumers and miners throughout the world. Companies in the US, Australia, Canada, and other countries began to reevaluate old rare earth prospects and explore for new ones. High prices also caused manufacturers to do three things: seek ways to reduce the amount of rare earth elements needed, 2, seek alternative materials, and 3, develop alternative products. This effort has resulted in a decline in the amounts of rare earth materials used in some types of magnets and some changes in other stuff. Chinese companies have been purchasing rare earth resources in other countries. In 2009, China Non-Ferrous Metal Mining Company bought a majority stake in Linus Corporation, an Australian company that is one of the highest outputs of rare earth outside of China. Interesting.
Yeah, and the well, obviously the attention. Well, like anything, when the price goes up, more people get involved, and so they are. But they're not. Nobody's got a lock. Nobody except China really has a lock on its rare earth right now.
Now, is this
China,
a byproduct of mining gold and silver, or is this something people go after?
Well, look,
in and of itself?
there are some deposits where this stuff shows up,
This stuff shows up with other metals, but it's mined for specifically. It's not, you don't mine for gold and hope to find rare earths. You mine for rare earths. China actually stopped selling rare earths for a few years ago, and that's what spurred California and a few other states and Australia to start, looking at their rare earth supplies and bring their mines back up to speed, because they had stopped mining for rare earths, and what was needed was available from China. But sometimes I think we don't catch up to technology as fast as we would have liked to, and where right now, where lithium's a good example. We just don't have really good supplies of lithium, and we need a whole lot of it. And coltan is even a better example. We have like zero supplies of coltan, only one place to get it from, and we need a whole lot of that too. Everybody does, all the tech companies. And so, we have wars going on where coltan exists right now in Africa. That's why we have these they're not wars really, they're skirmishes with various groups holding pieces of land and mining them. So yeah, I think it would probably behoove you guys to at least pay attention to what's happening with rare earths over the next few years.
Well, we're very intimate with the project. I'm going to send you that 300-page research report after the show.
Okay.
Does that report mention any rare earth minerals, John?
I think we did mention it in that, but we do have got amount of million-ton deposit of a thing that's just loaded with all kinds of rare earths in it, and it's potentially, like, based on assays, it's actually got a very high concentration of gold and silver, several ounces per ton of gold, and 60 to 100 ounces per ton of silver. And then if you add in the rare earths, it takes the value potentially up to about $10,000 a ton, which is a heck of a price. The problem is it's hard to separate the stuff out of the metals, because this is a kind of a tailings type product from an old zinc mine years ago.
Do you require special equipment?
Yeah, definitely. It requires some pretty sophisticated and potentially expensive. It probably costs about $3,000 a ton to process the stuff. But if you can make $7,000 a ton in the meantime, that's a heck of a business.
Sure.
So it is it's a difficult job separating the elements from, because a lot of them, when it comes off in tailings, or in sort of a processing, a lot of these are fused in almost solid rock kind of, or slag, if you like, from smelting. So it was sort of runoff from smelting in the old days. So,
yeah, he's right. I mean, you have to burn off. Essentially, you have to burn off the material that you don't want to be left with what you do want.
Right.
There's a heating process and various liquid processes that separate the chemicals, because you're holding a rock that's got 20 different elements in it in microscopic amounts.
Yeah, mostly it's acid type of processing that tends to free these things up.
Yeah.
Hydrochloric acid and stuff. I just want to make a couple of points, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Remember when he called the peso bottom at 4,500?
Right.
It hit 5,500 today, and 10 whole points higher, and it's actually gone even higher than that. But it might have peaked here this afternoon, just at 554 on the peso scale, which is something around 17 pesos per dollar. Now, if you remember, the peso, careened in, down to extreme lows when there's a maximum point of fear about taxes by Trump and paying for the wall and that kind of thing.
What did it hit?
It got down to around about 22 pesos per dollar.
Wow.
Jeff lived in Mexico for a while.
It might have even peaked down to 23. But
we got killed. I lived there. I lived there for a long time. It was a $1.10.
Where did you live in Mexico?
Puerto Penasco.
Rocky Point.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah. No, it's, when it was $1.10, that must have been in the 70s.
No, 2005 to 8. It was
no,
about 11.
It got to 10 pesos. You mean 10 pesos to the dollar?
Right. 11.
Right. Well, in
11.
2004, in 1994 was when the peso crashed. At one point the peso was about $1.90, maybe $2 for the peso. When they took the zeros off because it went through 2 inflations.
Right, I remember that.
Zeros off, but
so I would have paid 2 something for a peso.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah.
Right.
But now, it's amazing because it's gone from 2 pesos to 20 plus pesos. And
so now
the other day.
Now it's 20 pesos for $1.
It went to 23. It went to 23.
Whoa.
Yeah. So and that's what we were talking about the other day with the pound and the English footballers were wanting to get paid in euros, and I said this is a bad idea because it means the pound's going to rally. And sure enough, the pound has been rallying since that happened. When the Brexit thing happened, the pound got beaten down. But the real story is that they would have been better getting paid in gold because ultimately they're going to score. And if you look at the gold, what we've been talking about on the show is how gold back in '68, gold is up 36-fold since 1968 right now. The Dow is up 21-fold, but gold is up 36-fold. So, which is the bigger bull market? There's no contest. But it has been even higher. I think when it peaked, gold was up 50-fold from the 1968 lows. So there's a lot of room to go from 36-fold back up to 50-fold and beyond in the coming period. And when you look at some of these countries that have gotten into trouble, like Turkey, Venezuela, it happened somewhere. Oh, Qatar the other day, with this problem in Qatar, their currency got trashed overnight. So, and of course, Zimbabwe went to 1,000,000% inflation. So, there's actually about 17 countries that have gone through this hyperinflationary situation, including Mexico and Brazil. And at some point in the future, I don't think any country is going to be immune from it, including the U.S.
Well, it's fiat currency. I mean, as long as there's toner in the printer, just keep printing.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. See, I think that these events are orchestrated by the United States. The Venezuelan economy was crashed by the U.S. It didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't happen because mistakes were made or things were done wrong by the government. It happened because we employed a sustained economic war against the Mexican dollar for a decade. And at the same time, we sabotaged the Pemex plant, and we did other acts of sabotage. And so, the failure in Venezuela is a failure that was caused by actions we took.
Do you agree with that, John?
Well, to a certain extent, yeah.
It's okay to disagree. It makes good radio.
Well, you have to look at what we did. If you look at what we did with the dollar and with the way dollars were sent by Venezuelans from in the U.S. to Venezuela, and the way exchanges were made between Venezuela and the U.S. with dollars, and if you look at who owned what in Venezuela, commodity-wise, and what they did with those commodities, because Venezuela went through shortages of a lot of different necessary products, but the shortages weren't real. Those products existed. They just weren't sent to Venezuela. And they were sent to Colombia. And Venezuelans couldn't get them. The Venezuelans that lived at the border crossed the border to Colombia and could get those things, but Venezuelans in the interior of the country couldn't get toilet paper and chicken and other things that they needed.
So who benefited from this orchestrated attack?
The extreme right wing and Americans who are aligned with the extreme right wing in Venezuela and who have been for decades.
You mentioned toilet paper. By the way, folks, when I got my first shipment from Amazon of 96 rolls and I said I'd never have to buy toilet paper again, yeah, we had to reorder yesterday. I just thought I'd throw that in as a freebie.
Was that cheap to do?
34 cents a roll, free shipping.
Was it good toilet paper? Because we like to buy the best.
It's the good stuff.
All right, we'll have to do that too. I did it with the coconut oil.
Cottonelle Premium is the best because it's got it's a wider than normal paper.
Yeah, we use that sometimes too.
There you go.
So for years, we always bought the Scott tissue. It was more dense. You had more squares per roll, kind of thing. So you got more for your dollar, and it was and it it's not that cotton candy stuff the bears advertise on TV, but it got the job done.
Yeah, Charmin would be better if it just leaves a lot of stuff behind.
Yeah.
Paper behind.
Yeah.
But hey, on coconut oil, I did the same thing. I got on the internet, and normally we pay 0.481 cents an ounce for coconut oil. I finally found it for 0.281 cents an ounce, cheapest I could find, and one of the brands I use. I just had to buy 2 big 54-ounce tubs of it, but we did.
John, are you up on the coconut oil?
So, what are you guys
Tell him,
talking
Jeff.
about?
Tell him about the coconut oil.
Well, I just published a book called Living Superhuman, Ketosis and Ketogenesis.
Can you send us a link?
I just sent you a link, John. I just sent you a link.
Okay, great. Because sounds like you're, Jesus,
Everybody's talking about the coconut
dizzy
oil.
with all this. I'm getting dizzy with all this knowledge being.
Well, my wife's my wife's had me on it for months. She's been on it for much longer than that, and it's like this incredible superfood. So they say.
No. I've heard about it, but
okay.
Actually, there's a coconut vendor near our street, so I periodically pick up.
Well, as odd as this may sound, the ketogenic diet is used now in all major cancer centers in the U.S. and across the world to treat brain gliomas. It cures them without any other pharmaceuticals or radiation or chemotherapy. The diet alone cures gliomas, and it's being experimented with other cancers, with Parkinson's, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, neurological disorders, anxiety, depression, and dermatological disorders, lung and heart disorders, and almost everything known to man. But the actual diet, and it's pretty incredible, was developed originally to treat epilepsy, and about 15% of children treated with this diet never have an epileptic seizure again, and about 50% have significant reduction in seizures. But then it was started to be used for weight loss, and it's an incredible weight loss diet. You can lose about 30. The ketogenic diet. It consists of this, okay, a real ketogenic diet, the one I just did. I just did it for about, 120 days. And you consume approximately 150 grams of coconut oil fat a day, which is 14 grams per tablespoon, so about 10 or 11 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, like one every hour is the best way to do it. And organic, I use organic refined coconut oil. It has no taste, it just tastes like water. And then, so that's 90% of your diet, 85 to 90% of your diet. And then you have about 8%, 7% protein. So you might eat a quarter pound to a half pound of meat or fish per day. Any kind of meat for fish, bacon, ribs, whatever you want to eat, tuna, salmon. And then about 3, 4, 5% of your diet is carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. Lettuce, tomato, celery, cilantro, avocado, carrots, not potatoes, not rice, not yams. Those are simple carbohydrates. And so you're eating a restricted carb diet, and what happens is everybody has ketones in their blood at 0.02 millimoles per deciliter. But on a ketogenic diet, where you're eating a tremendous amount of high-quality fat and restricting carbohydrates and eating just enough protein to prevent muscle loss, you start developing a higher level of ketones, and you reach somewhere between 3 and 7 millimoles per deciliter of ketones. Now, ketones are the preferred energy source of the brain. The brain is about between 69 and 73% fat. It's the fattiest organ in the body. And it really likes ketones, but we never make enough for it to they don't even go there. At 0.02 millimoles per deciliter, the ketones we normally make don't see the light of day. But when you get up to 3 to 7 millimoles per deciliter, you're in what's called ketosis. And so all of your organs and your brain are now operating on fat, which anybody knows when you feed a kid some sugar, they have a sugar high, they misbehave a little bit, and then they crash. That's because protein and carbohydrates, which both turn into sugar in your body, or glucose, that's the type of energy they provide, a quick energy and then a crash. Where fat provides very level, long-term energy that doesn't die out. So by eating so much fat and restricting carbohydrates and eating just enough protein to prevent muscle loss, you are converting your body to what's called a fat-burning machine. You have a high level of ketones in your blood, and several things happen. Number one, bacterial, viral, and fungal infections won't grow in your body. Number two, cancer cells die because they don't have any glucose, and they must have glucose to survive. They can't survive on ketones. Number three, your clarity of thinking increases such that you wouldn't believe it. Your self-confidence, self-worth, and self-value increase like you've never seen before. Your feeling of comfort and your state of mind are just extraordinary.
Does impending doom go away?
Absolutely, it does. This is Dwayne. This is used for to treat anxiety and depression. It's been used for 100 years. This diet has been used for over 100 years to treat anxiety and depression. And the very best thing about this diet, the two best things, after about 3 weeks, you never run out of energy, you're never tired, and you're never hungry.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
That's an extraordinary claim.
It's unbelievable. If you do 90% and like 6, 7%, 3, 4% protein and carbohydrates, the results are astounding.
Well, I got to say that my wife is on a form of this diet. I don't know how closely it lines up with yours, but I think it sounds pretty close. And I got to tell you, she is in probably as good a health as she's ever been in, and she has one of these Tony Little gazelles. You know what I'm talking about? The exercise thing.
Yeah.
Low impact, where your feet go back and forth and your hands. She puts in, I don't know. She's listening. She can't come on today, but she's listening. I don't know if she does 2 miles a day or 10 miles a day, but I think most days she probably does 5 miles a day on that thing. And I mean, and she's so vibrant. I'm getting old, and she's getting younger. So
this is exactly the kind of exercise that this diet supports. It doesn't support weightlifting. Well, there are forms of this diet that support weightlifting, but the diet I described does not. It supports a low level of energy expenditure. So, for example, I went out and I had some lawn work to do. We have a huge, huge lawn. It's probably a third to half acre, and it was hard work. And I ran into an energy deficit. I literally almost passed out. I had to put a teaspoon of sugar in my mouth and suck on it for about an hour and then spit it out just to be able to stand up.
Do you have diabetes or some kind of...
No. I just wasn't consuming enough fat. I had to readjust the diet, and I wasn't consuming enough protein. I had the carb restriction was okay, but not enough protein, not enough fat. So in my book...
Henry just texted me, when that happens, take some more coconut oil.
Yeah, that doesn't work fast enough. That's why I just put a teaspoon of sugar in my mouth for about 10 minutes and then spit it out.
Huh.
And the sugar in your mouth, it's absorbed into your bloodstream immediately. So, and it was a teaspoon, and I spit most of it out, so I didn't absorb much sugar, but enough to wake up and walk around.
Gotcha.
But my book describes everything you need to know. There's hundreds of ketogenic diets, okay? There's one to fit everybody's need and one to fit everybody's desires. And my book shows you how you can, it tells you everything about ketogenesis so that you can design a diet that's going to work for you. And it gives you enough data that you can tweak it and modify it as time passes so that you can get it to perfection.
Fascinating. Now, my wife says, she just texted me again, she said that she gets instant energy from the coconut oil. I wonder if it might be that you guys are using different kinds. Are there different brands? Or...
No, there's instant energy. I agree with her. She does get instant energy, and so do I. I was in a state of total energy depletion. Okay? I barely made it up the stairs. And I fell into a chair, and all I could do was wake up and ask her to get me a teaspoon of sugar. I mean, I was almost passed out. So, yes, you do get instant energy from coconut oil, but I needed to I needed one of those things they snap under your nose and ammonia, and you breathe ammonia and it wakes you up right away. I was close to passing out.
Oh, yeah, I forget what they call those little things.
Yeah. So that was the best I could think of at the moment. And then what I did, based on what your wife said, because she's correct, is I started consuming coconut oil almost on an hourly basis, so that I had a constant inflow of the oil. I was doing 2 to 3 tablespoons with each meal, 3 meals a day. I started just doing the coconut oil with everything, one tablespoon with a meal, 1 tablespoon with every drink, so that about every hour I was getting a tablespoon for about 11, 12, 13 hours a day.
By the way, guys, this book is free. Jeff, I can put the link into, let me put the link to your Facebook page. How about that? And then people can go to your page and learn about you, and also they can click the link and get the book, right?
Yeah, they may have to scroll down, a couple posts to get the book, but that's because my page is open. And
when you see the guy ripping open his shirt with the S on it, that's it, right? That's
he's ripping open his green shirt, and there's a Superman logo, and he's exposing.
Okay, guys, I am putting it in the chat box for everybody.
Jeff, the author of that report you're going to get is a pretty incredible guy in his own right. He was John McEnroe's coach. He's one of the top 2 tennis coaches of all time. He coached the Williams sisters. He coached Vitas Gerulaitis, Jimmy Connors, all kinds of people. He's a really amazing guy. But he's right up your street with this superhuman living, and he's in exactly the same vein. So I might be able to put you 2 guys together at some point. I think it'd be fascinating. He's into raw. He doesn't need anything cooked. This guy, he eats everything raw.
Yeah, I did too on the ketogenic diet. Everything raw except.
And he does bariatric chambers every day.
Yeah, I was just reading about that.
He's also the arm wrestling champion of the world. Right? And so he's just a formidable character.
I have to tell you, that says a lot. I mean, that does say a lot. Because I do have pictures of me. I did lift weights for a long time. And I was pretty fanatical about it. I was pretty big. I mean, I was really big. That says a lot. That says a lot just about the psychology, because it takes a tremendous amount of internal psychology to amass muscle tissue like that. It's not an easy thing to do. So to be number one in arm wrestling, which is extremely difficult, it says quite a bit.
You know, he's all about this business of, you know, getting rid of the toxins in the body and keeping bacteria at a minimum. And he sees it as longevity, you know, extended longevity. You know,
sure.
You have to live to 105 or 110.
Sure, he's absolutely right.
This testimony is going to begin in a minute, so I'm going to try and catch that. But listen, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, Jeff. It's just really riveting.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you too, John.
Thanks very much. That was a pleasure. I hope we get to do it again soon. So there's a lot more to ask.
We will. We will.
Fast knowledge, by the sound of it.
I hope we will. I can't tell you, it's just thrilling to be able to talk to Dwayne. It is.
Great. Likewise. Well, it's a thrill to talk to you, and obviously your knowledge base is just unbelievable. Encyclopedic, I might add.
Thank you. I'm just busy making books.
John, I sent you a link to the book he's talking about, and again, to everyone in the audience.
I already had a look. I already scanned through it. It looks fantastic.
Doesn't it look great? I mean, he did a fantastic job. Well, he used to publish a magazine here in Phoenix, so he hasn't lost that skill.
That's great. Yeah.
All right. Well, John, I'll talk to you again same time tomorrow.
All right. Much obliged. Thanks for the invite. It was a great show. Tremendous.
Thank you
show.
very
Thanks
much.
very much.
I appreciate it.
Have a great night, John.
Bye.
Well, so
hey,
and then there were two. Okay.
And it's just you and me.
So
Dwayne, it's been so
your
long.
life from when we met and worked together. Then you spent time in Mexico and you worked there. And I sort of lost track of you from the church downtown. I remember standing on the back porch, shaking your hand, and it seems like I can't remember if you told me you weren't coming back to work the next day or I was expecting you the next day. And then I haven't seen or heard from you until one day on Facebook, I just typed in your name probably 2-3 years ago, and there you were. So, fill me in on what happened in between.
Sure. I sold Senior Magazine in 2005, and
to Roy DeVault.
No. Roy had bought in. Roy gave me $7,000 for 25%, which he sold 6 months later for $50,000. So. Wow. Yeah, no shit. Excuse me. Yeah, Roy made out. Roy made out. Yeah, Roy made out very well. I sold Senior Magazine.
I hope he used the money to get an attitude adjustment. I really do.
I did.
No, I hope he used the money to get an attitude adjustment. Yeah, did he ever cheer up?
No, we're in touch every day. Spoke to him yesterday. Oh yeah.
Oh, tell him I said hi.
I will. No, there is no attitude adjustment with Roy DeVault.
Oh my gosh!
But nevertheless, he's still a good guy. He's the same good guy he always was.
Okay.
So I sold Senior Magazine and I retained the back cover, which was an ad I had sold. Of course, I sold most of the ads, but it was Humana, which was my best account, and they paid $5,000 a month for that back cover. And I figured I could survive perfectly well on $5,000 a month, especially in Mexico.
Sure.
And it was tax-free. I mean, so I went to Mexico, and I rented a brand new house that had never been lived in. And actually, it was a upstairs, downstairs, one apartment downstairs, one upstairs. I rented the upstairs. It was a 2-bedroom. And
were you a single man at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a little gated little deal with parking and everything,
right.
and garage, but in the middle of Puerto Penasco. So, everybody around me had coolers and swamp coolers and outhouses, and I had a really nice apartment. It's kind of weird.
We spent a lot of time down there. In fact, you went with us on that HandyNet trip, but after that, we spent quite a bit of time there. We haven't been in years. We keep threatening each other that we're going to go back and visit. We still have that little piece of property down there, but anyway.
Well, a lot has changed, I will say that. So anyways, I was like about a half a mile to the beach, and I got a dog, and I went to the beach every day, and I got a little job working about an hour a day. I had a lot of advertisers in Moscow, about 6 resorts and 3 or 4 restaurants and a couple of real estate agents and some hotels, and I had a bunch of advertisers that advertised in Senior Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And with my Mexican accounts, it was half cash, half trade. So I had this boatload of unused trade. So I stayed in some hotels and resorts for a while and ate in some nice restaurants, and then finally rented a place. And I had I had 4-wheeler trade, and I had parasailing. I had trade for everything.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. And so after, and I got a little job working about an hour a day for one of the resort owners, creating magazine covers and some page content for him. And then about my 5th or 6th month there, the people I sold Senior Magazine to went out of business. So all I had left was my savings.
Yeah.
And no more $5,000.
Oh, that advertising revenue went away. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. There was no guarantee to continue getting that if they went out of business.
Right.
And admittedly, Senior Magazine was always me. I did I worked 20 hours a day, and I wasn't sure they'd be able to make it anyway.
Well, as we both know, if you enjoy what you do, it's not really work. So.
Right, and it wasn't work for me while I was there. So yeah. So anyway, so that ended. So I stayed for another year, about another 10 months. And I just, I had a nice Dodge Ram 1500, a beautiful apartment, great furniture, and everything I had really, top of the line, everything. I took my PlayStation and my computer and everything.
Didn't you sell timeshares at some point?
Yeah, that was later. When I ran into you again, what I had done is I ran out of money.
Yeah,
so
that happens.
So I just drove up to the border and walked across. I left everything in Mexico, except my computer. I gave my computer to a real estate agent I knew who took it back to Phoenix. The design computer I still use to make these PDFs, these books and stuff. I gave it to a real estate agent. She took it back to Phoenix, and I picked it up a year or 2 later. But in the meantime, I walked across the border.
Her name wasn't Patty, was it?
No.
Okay.
Jeannie. So I walked across the border, and so I owed a little child support, so I spent some time in jail and had to pay that. And then I ran, and then I figured, okay, well, I'll be homeless for a while. I kind of liked it because I could go to the library all day and read, and I had a place to sleep and a place to eat, and I got fresh clothes at the Salvation Army once a week and a haircut and everything. So it was pretty cool. So I just kind of checked out the homeless gig, and I knew it wouldn't last forever.
So you went intentionally homeless?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the time I spent in Mexico, I spent thinking, and here's what I thought. Okay, and it's in a nutshell. I do not want to contribute my work product to this system anymore. I was done.
You got to eat.
I do. At the homeless, when you're homeless, you get fed really good at the churches, good food.
Yeah. Oh, the church, they fight over you.
They do. They do.
There's over 100 organizations in downtown Phoenix fighting over the homeless. He's mine. No, he's mine.
Yeah. Well, I had a place I went to every day. Same place every day, different food, and real good food and plenty of it. And same place I slept every night. And right across the street, I had a little place I'd go to where I kept a P.O. box. And I just went to the library every day, which was another 6 blocks away. My whole world was within about 10 blocks. And so I could walk everywhere and had a little backpack.
Did you go to that little old library right off Washington? Or did you go to the downtown library?
The main downtown library.
Okay. All right, gotcha.
They had nice bathrooms and nice
right,
comfortable chairs,
right.
and it was quiet, and I could use their computer 1 hour a day.
Sure.
So, speaking of computers, I did use their computer for 1 hour a day because by this time I had gotten my computer back, and it was at a friend's house in Tempe near the college, and he had no internet. So when I ran into you, when I ran into you, I think I was still living with that. I had moved in with that friend, and I think I worked for you for a couple weeks.
That's what my wife asked me. She said, "Was he there a couple of days?" I said, I think he was there more like a couple months. So you say a couple weeks, okay?
Yeah, I think it was only like 2 or 3 weeks I was there.
It wasn't long. Yeah,
no,
I could tell your body was there, but your mind was somewhere else.
Yeah, I just didn't want to work, man. I had made a decision in Mexico that I will never work again. Let me rephrase that. I will never produce any type of income that the U.S. government can attach. Ever again. I will never contribute my work product to the system, period. So, of course, my 70 plus ebooks are all free. We
need to talk about that. I'm sorry.
we can another time.
All right.
So I worked for you for a while, and then I went back to my buddy's house in Tempe and just kind of hung out there. And I had met Ann, who was my first girlfriend when we were 14. She lived next door to me, and we were like boyfriend and girlfriend for a few years. And she was my first real girlfriend.
Right.
And we were also best friends because we lived next door to each other, and so we hung out together. And that's the late '60s, early '70s.
Dawson's Creek kind of thing. I got you. She was Joey Potter. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we were teeny boppers, is what they called us, And so, we listened to bubblegum music. Yeah. So, we moved when I was 18, so I never saw her again. And at the library in Phoenix, I found her, and so I talked to her for about an hour a day for a few days. And,
on the computer, you found her?
Yeah. Okay. And then she bought 2 cell phones and sent one to me. And for about 6 months or so, we talked on the phone, like all day, every day. And she has Parkinson's disease and was here in Minnesota teaching school. So we decided to meet at a friend's house in New Jersey.
Is that what Michael J. Fox has, Parkinson's?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
But way worse than that, like 100 times worse.
Okay, good.
Yeah, she has no dyskinesia, which is his movement when he moves like he does.
Right.
That's called dyskinesia. She doesn't have that.
I have so much respect for him that he has tried to continue to be, productive.
He's in tough shape. That dyskinesia, man, is like you're constantly moving.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how difficult that is to.
Yeah. She has none. But anyway, so we both flew to New Jersey and stayed at a friend's house, high school friend's house there. Spent 3 weeks there, and went back to Mexico, and got a place there for about a year. And that's when I sold some property and what we were still paying. She had a house here in Minneapolis. We were still paying for too, empty house here, and we couldn't support both households, so we came back here. And that's how I got here. So I get
so that's where you live in Minnesota now.
Yeah, and I get $194 a month in food stamps and $204 in cash aid. I am disabled, Social Security disabled, and I'll collect Social Security in another 22, 29, 30 days. Well, a little more.
Now, will that cut into your other assistance and your SNAP?
Yeah, I'll lose the cash aid, the 204 cash aid I'll lose. A portion of the food stamps I will keep, and I will have to start paying 100 and something for Medicare. I don't take any meds, so I won't need Part D, so I won't have to pay for that. So it's looking like a net increase of somewhere around $1,000 a month.
This is an interesting conversation to where, like, this radio station is like the capitalist central of the world. This is a very enlightening conversation.
Yeah, I don't need any money. Look,
because when I met you, you were like the pinnacle of, you were young, under 30. You had the loft apartment, you had the girl, you had the company car, brand spanking new Corvette. You had an army of men working for you. If you told them to go here or go there, they went. I mean, quite a difference. Quite a difference.
Yeah, 50 desks. I think a lot of this comes from having done that. I had $10,000 and $20,000 paychecks, weekly paychecks, 10 and 20 grand a week, sitting on my dresser at home.
Yesterday on the radio, I told the audience that when I worked for you, I was making, in the early 80s, $1,000 a week. I said, so I can, with all the employees, I can only imagine he was probably somewhere between 5 and 10 grand a week. So
yeah, they were between 10 and 20 grand. Sheldon was really good, and the car and the insurance was another $900 a month, and he paid that. So I had an '86 Corvette fully insured, and I didn't have to pay a dime.
I'll never forget the day that you parked your car way out in the parking lot of the grocery store, and you left the window cracked, and somebody poured a Slurpee in the little crack. Said, "We'll show this rich." What was the term back then? Yuppie? Yeah, we'll show this yuppie.
I don't remember that, but I'm sure it happened.
You were quite upset. Oh, and then there was a time that you went over the freshly paved road. They just laid fresh asphalt, and you saw the city of Phoenix. Remember that?
Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now you said disability. What do you have? Some specific disability that you flag?
Yeah, I'll quote the special master at Social Security, who's an attorney. Quote, severe bullous emphysema, unquote, and quote.
What kind of emphysema?
Bullous. Okay, what that means is I have blisters on the outside of my lungs.
Oh.
And I have one that's 17 centimeters, which is really big.
Is it painful?
No, you don't feel them at all. There's no nerves around your lungs. They're in the plethora which surrounds the lungs, but it's not. No, you don't feel anything at all. You just run out of breath because the blisters take up lung space.
Yeah.
So
and
your
there's no treating them or getting rid of them, or.
Well, the treatment is when your lifestyle is affected. You can have surgery, arthroscopic surgery, where they just put a little hole and suck out the blisters. But you don't do that unless your quality of life is severely affected, and mine's not. So.
Now, my wife did text me that coconut oil is supposed to be, and she said you probably know this, but it's supposed to be really helpful for Parkinson's. She also wanted me to ask you if the refined and the unrefined coconut oil, if you feel there's a huge difference.
There is absolutely no difference at all. They're both created under the same process. Okay, they're both called virgin, which means first press, and they're both cold pressed, and the refined is just run through a filter, and it removes the coconut taste, and the unrefined is just left alone. The coconut taste is in it. It doesn't have much of a coconut taste. We buy both. We cook with the unrefined, which has a coconut flavor, and we use the refined to eat, to tablespoon. Because it has no taste at all.
I don't know if I'd say no taste, but that's how I do it. I just get a big tablespoon and just gobble it down. I just let it slide down like an oyster or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little greasy, but in the wintertime when it's white and it's solid, it's kind of like Vaseline. But I don't know if you experience that. But here in the summertime, it's liquid, so it's fine with me.
She says she's read that the refined is slightly less good than the unrefined. So
I don't think that's the case. If you read the labels, the labels have the exact same contents.
Yeah, she cooks with the refined. The text says, but I eat the unrefined. Okay.
Yeah, just opposite what I do. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't think it matters. So I really don't, and I don't. And the reason I don't think it matters, at least for me, is because I'm going back into ketosis here in a week or so, and at 150.
Tell people what that means when you say you're going back into ketosis. What does that mean?
Okay, what that means is I'm going to start eating about 200 to 250 grams of coconut oil a day.
How many tablespoons is that?
That would be about 15 or 20.
Oh, wow.
Okay. 20 would be 280 grams. And 10 would be 140. So it'll be between 10 and 20,
okay.
Closer to 20. Because I revised the diet. See, I went through this. I did it for 120 days, and then I put this book together, read all the literature, read all the peer review, and figured out, what's best for me and what I did right, what I did wrong. So I'm going to do about 250 grams of coconut oil per day, so about a tablespoon or two every hour, in water, in coffee, in lime water with a squirt of lime, in anything, water, whatever.
Bulletproof coffee? That's what my wife calls the concoction that she has every day.
Yeah, I only drink about 2 ounces of coffee, and then about 2 ounces of heavy cream, and then about 6 ounces of milk, and then a couple tablespoons of coconut oil. So I drink mostly milk. Yeah, there's not much coffee in my coffee. But so 250 grams of coconut oil a day, a quarter to half pound of meat fish, and about 4 to 6 ounces of complex carbohydrates, probably mostly leafy greens and tomatoes, and a wide variety of spices and herbs.
My wife has an organic garden in the backyard. It's absolutely amazing to me what she's able to grow in the middle of the desert. I mean, trying to dig that garden, you needed practically a jackhammer.
Yeah, I did it. I did it in Glendale. I grew awesome stuff in Glendale. It was unbelievable because it is really hot, like you said.
Well, my daughter Emily, I can't even remember now. It's a squash or a cucumber or something she grew last year. It was like, it should have been in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's like weighed 20 pounds or something. I'm sure my wife will text me in a minute and straighten me out on what it was.
I grew a lot of really good Roma tomatoes in my backyard in Glendale, and I can't remember what else I grew. Oh, we grew radishes. Those were like 30 days. Every 30 days you could pick big golf ball sized radishes. Those grew fast.
I was just informed it was a cabbage.
Oh, okay.
Currently, she has growing cabbage, kale, tomatoes, broccoli, onions, peppers, and 4 kinds of cucumbers. All organic, GMO free.
That's what we got. We got wheatgrass, radishes, broccoli, cauliflower, habanero, jalapeno, lettuce, mescalero, eggplant, and
well, you guys do get rain in Minnesota. I mean, that helps.
Yeah, plus we have hoses too. Do you have hoses in Phoenix?
Oh, we got hoses. Definitely got lots of hoses. Well, when we lived in Portland, Oregon, you didn't have to try to grow stuff. You had to go outside with a swing blade and keep stuff from taking over your house.
Oh yeah, no, we don't have that problem here. It's hot and muggy here. I mean, it's hot and humid. Today's supposed to be cloudy all day, and the temperature's probably 75, 80 outside, and it's probably kind of muggy. But it was cold last night and had all the windows open, so it's still nice and cool inside the apartment.
92 here, and the high this afternoon will be 96. But then by next Thursday, oh my goodness, by next Sunday it'll be 114. By this Sunday it'll be 114. Next Tuesday, 118. Oh man.
See, but Dwayne, I'll tell you, if memory serves.
It's a dry heat. Yeah, right. Okay, so's hell. I don't want to go there.
But I lived there for 20 odd years, and I would much prefer to be in 110 Phoenix weather than to be in 90 degree or 85 degree Minnesota weather.
Really? Really?
Yeah. You walk outside. If it's 85, like right now, it says right now it's 89.
Yeah.
Which means if you walk outside for 10 minutes, you are going to be soaking wet.
Well, down in Puerto Penasco in the summertime, if you took a shower, you could never get dry.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh
I
my
agree.
goodness, that was miserable. We would go there off and on throughout the summer, but as little as possible. But in the good months, for a while there we went every other weekend. I loved it. I was so drawn to it. And then I arrived one weekend. We pulled up and we unloaded the truck, and I went up on the deck above the trailer, and I turned to look at the beautiful ocean, and that stinking Manny had built a palapa that blocked my whole view. I had like 2 inches of ocean view left.
I know
he
exactly
turned it
what
into
you're
a
talking
dance
about.
floor. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep, Manny's was great before that. It was. He
owned half of Rocky Point when I was last there, so he probably owns all of it by now. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not as much as you think, but there's a few people that own a lot. It's been divided up. It's been divvied up pretty heavily. There's a good 25 enormous resorts. I mean, 15, 20 stories high.
When we stopped going, so every other weekend kind of thing, those big resorts had started to go up. We were heading into the real estate boom, or the end of the boom, and then those projects stood vacant, dormant, and quiet, like some kind of weird ghost town for a few years.
Yeah, they're all built now.
Yeah,
they're all built now. The golf courses are built. The roads are all built. They're just rocking and rolling.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I'll tell you, because Rocky Point is surrounded in 200 miles in every direction by either desert or water,
mm-hmm.
and it's a small town of 45,000 people, maybe 50,000 by now, possibly, and because the crime rate is so low, it's just an excellent place for Americans in Phoenix and California to invest in vacation property.
Well, I mean, for us, it was a 4-hour drive door to door. It's the closest ocean. I mean, it takes 6 hours to drive to San Diego, but we could be there in 4. Did any
and
of
you can fly there now?
Oh, you can fly. They opened the airport.
You can fly from Phoenix right to Rocky Point.
I did not know that. Did any of the cartel violence spill over into Rocky Point?
Absolutely none.
I know there was a murder on that long stretch from the border to Rocky Point at that little place where you could pull over to the side of the road and pray. What do they call that? What do they call those little places? Had all the candles in it, and it had the guy's artificial leg in there.
I know what you mean. There's a bunch of those along that road.
Oh, I just remember the one, but some Americans got murdered there, and so for a while they were telling us not to go. Yeah, Marie says the airport's right by our property, right before Black Mountain Road.
Yeah, it is. And you can fly right there. It's not expensive. And, I'll tell you, it's the people are so gracious, and it's really, truly, I don't know about now, but I do know about now because I know what the exchange rate is. It's extremely inexpensive to live there. If I lived there now, okay, I was paying $850 a month for a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. I had skylights and ceiling fans and domed ceilings and huge tiled shower, and I mean it was a really beautiful place, a spiral staircase and everything. But it was $850 a month. That right now would be 200 something with the exchange rate. I just go get pesos and pay it in pesos. And the same with food. I mean, a $2 meal is a quarter now. I mean, prices have changed.
Wow.
Well, according to your friend, if his exchange rates were right, when I lived there, if I went to the bank, which I did, I opened the account. If I went to the bank, gave them $1, I got $11 in Mexican money.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so I got an extra $1. If I gave them $10, I got $11 in extra in Mexican money. So for every $10 I turned in, I got $11 back. Well, he was just saying for every $10 you turn in, you get $22 back, $24 back. Okay, so if you turn in 10, you get 24 back. I mean, that's a pretty great exchange rate.
I can't even remember what the exchange rate, because I think we always spent dollars when we went down. I'm sure we converted sometimes, but I don't think we always did.
Yeah, most people do. Once you live there for a while and you realize the exchange rate and the difference, you just convert all your money. So, which is what I did. I just opened an account there and converted everything. I just made my deposits and then just took out pesos and spent pesos wherever I went. It gave me an extra $1 for every 10.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, have you had any thoughts of moving back there? Or?
Well, we'd like to. Anne's had 2 brain surgeries with electrodes implanted and 2 chest surgeries to power those electrodes. And the medication, one of the medications she takes, we can't get in Mexico. We can only get in Phoenix. So that requires a drive back to Phoenix every 90 days. Mm-hmm. And, she's got a son here, 3 grandchildren. And, I have to admit, I do like this apartment. I like where we live. We have huge grounds and we have a huge vegetable garden. I mean, just huge. And my cat knows the neighborhood. She's a leash cat, so I can walk around the neighborhood with my cat. Everything's close. The co-op, the organic co-op, is 4 blocks away, and the doctor's office is only a couple of miles. And I'd like to go back. We might, but it's not likely.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like you've settled into a comfortable lifestyle. I mean, you sound good. You are obviously productive with all the writing that you do. Even if
I have,
even if you're not, supporting the machine with whatever industrial complex with your labor.
Well, it's thank the Lord for Anne. Anne she has a master's degree in education. She was a teacher for 25 years. So, and with Parkinson's, not only does she have Social Security disability, she has teacher's retirement, teacher's disability. And so, she lives here, pays all the bills. I live here too. And, I get my food stamps and my cash aid, and I use that. And, I happen to love her more than anything else in the world. So my goal is to outlive her so I can take care of her and be here when she needs me. And we have a pretty darn good relationship dating back to 1969.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I just hear in your voice that you have a piece about you that wasn't there the last time I saw you. So...
Yeah, it definitely wasn't, that's for sure. Last time you saw me, I think I might have had a backpack with me and was sleeping in the shelter a few blocks away.
You were carrying a backpack. I remember that. I sure do.
Then I was definitely sleeping in the shelter at that time. It's funny how you go, I thought about it. I was sitting at the library one day, the main Phoenix Public Library, and there's some benches out front or something. And or maybe I was waiting for the bus. And I was thinking, I used to drive around in a Cadillac and a Corvette on these streets. And, I made 10, 20 grand a week. I published Senior Magazine. I gave speeches at Kiwanis Clubs and Sun City Clubs and, different organizations. And I used to be able to call up and get tickets to any concert I wanted, and they'd be within the first 2 or 3 rows. I saw Cher, I saw the Rolling Stones. I mean, because I put their ads in my magazine for nothing, and they gave me tickets for nothing. And here I am, homeless in front of the library. And I just thought how ironic it was, but I also thought about how free I felt, because nobody on my time. I didn't have to do anything. I could have sat on that bench all day and all night if I wanted to, And it just the freedom that I attained by deciding not to contribute my work product was well worth any negative aspects that other people might think come along with that. Because for me, there haven't been any negative aspects. I don't mind sleeping in a warehouse with 500 people. It's only a few hours and I'm sleeping.
Well, my younger brother, Jeff, he chose the intentionally homeless lifestyle. It didn't end well for him. I must say, he passed. In the last 2 years, my mom passed, my dad passed, and my only younger brother, passed.
Yeah, you told me that, and I'm sorry to hear that. I do have to say this, Dwayne, and make this very clear. I went into homelessness purposely, but never once did I think that I would stay that way. I happened to enjoy it, and I hung out like that for probably 13, 14 months. But at no time did I think that that would be permanent.
Did you chronicle it, journal it? Ever going to write a book about it?
I've written about it quite a few times. I wish I had chronicled it, because then I wouldn't have to rely on memory, which is fickle.
Which is a slippery thing at best. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know, so you remember things that really weren't what they were. But
It's amazing how different my wife and I, we've been together 36, I guess, plus years, and certain major life events, she remembers them one way, and I remember them completely different. And I don't think it's because necessarily either one of us has a faulty memory, although there's some things I don't remember at all. But I think we all see life through a different lens. And so while we think we're on the same page today, 20 years from now, we could be talking, and her interpretation of a series of events might be totally different than my interpretation. But we both thought we were seeing and experiencing the same thing when it happened.
I think you have to understand, okay, that there is such a thing as faulty memory, and it's normal. This is
I
why
know that I have memory issues. Yeah.
Listen. This is why eyewitness testimony
is the most unreliable.
Right. So I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Well, whether I remember it all correctly or not, man, I mean, there's a lot of things I would change, as far as I could have done a lot of things a whole heck of a lot better. But
Dwayne, you made some awesome financial decisions. I mean, you really did.
I've made some poor ones too, Jeff.
Okay, but that may be so.
Just because the apple's shiny doesn't mean there's not a worm inside. So. Yeah,
but ultimately you made far better decisions than I did. I mean, that's
we simply made different decisions. You're happy, you're in love, you're well fed. Aside from whatever the health issue is you have, I mean, you're healthy, and health. All the health in the all the wealth in the world won't help you if you don't have good health. So.
OMG. 10 years later.
I'm sorry about that. Hang on a second.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. Well, having money would be nice. I got to tell you that. I mean, I've had to ask Facebook friends several times for money. And that's not easy to do.
Well, yeah, but that goes back to you making a conscious decision that you don't want to produce for the industrial whatever. I mean, those two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. And I buy my clothes at used clothing stores because I don't want to fund any of the corporations, and I only buy.
Why are you mad at the corporations?
Well, it's not necessarily that I'm mad at the corporations, okay? Because I'm not. I mean, corporations are doing what corporations do, and they're mandated to profit. In fact, corporations have to profit by law,
right? And
above and beyond everything else, or they'll get sued by the shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm not mad at the corporations at all. It's my contention that this is the case, okay? Eventually, enough people are going to get upset with the Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George Bush, Donald Trumpers. It might take another 4 or 5 or 10 elections, but eventually enough people are going to get upset. And the only way to stop this wheel in motion is to stop buying into it, which means everybody's going to have to stop paying their mortgage, stop paying their credit card, stop paying their phone bill, stop going to school, stop going to work. And when 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 million people do that, they're going to have true power, and they're going to attain real freedom and liberty. And,
they're also going to be sleeping under the stars.
Not for long. Not for long. If 50 million people boycott Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Walmart, Kmart,
they're going to come pay your mortgage?
Stop paying their mortgage.
No. I'm saying if you boycott Walmart, are they going to come pay your mortgage to get you to come back?
You're not going to pay your mortgage. You're not going to pay anything. You know, you'll have spent a year stocking up on food and the things you need to survive, and you'll survive. And if 50 million people do that, and they do it for a month or so, the economy will collapse, and the oligarchy will melt away. What takes its place then becomes a great danger.
Yeah, I mean, so what's the prize? I mean, what's the end game for our efforts if we choose this path?
Well, I think the path will be chosen at some point in time in the future, either way, whether that's 50 years or 100 years, as the two, as the developing world standard of living increases and the developed world, our standard of living decreases, so that they do meet in the middle somewhere. That's bound to happen. Okay, I mean, we already see signs of it in other countries where large groups of farmers go on strike and people strike. They're smaller countries, so the strikes have bigger effects. They don't have 300 million people like we do. But eventually, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, whatever it may be, people in this country are going to have had enough. And I just believe that.
They're gonna have enough what?
Of everything, conservatives and liberals alike. Enough taxes, enough racism, enough this, enough that, enough of everything. You're just going to have enough of the oligarchs, of Congress having the best insurance plans in the world, and the rest of us having garbage.
I agree. That's wrong.
Okay, and of Congress being able to gain insider
trade
information.
On insider information. That's wrong.
Right.
It was taken away from them. And in a midnight session in empty halls in 5 minutes with no debate, they voted it back in because the reason that they used was that they were required to disclose information on these public websites, searchable databases, and it might not be safe. It might compromise their safety and their family's safety. So, in the middle of the night, while America's sleeping, they voted it back in, and now they can trade on insider information. I'm as ticked off, brother, about that as any human being could be.
Right. So you see, the problem, Dwayne, is this is a trend, okay? And it's only going to get worse, and it's only going to get more in your face.
I'm only going to live so much longer. I mean,
Right. That's why it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime. But like I'm saying, 100 years from now, 50, 100 years from now, people are going to have had enough. It'll just be enough, and they'll figure out what to do. And the boycott is all they're going to have at their hands. They're not going to. Their weapons, you can have all the guns in the world. These people have armored tanks and ICBMs and neutron bombs. I mean, you're not going to fight them.
In what society in history has the scenario that you depict played out?
None. There's only been one revolution in the history of humankind that was actually won. And the word "one" I use very loosely because they've been paying for it ever since. The only revolution in the history of humankind that was ever won was the Haitian Revolution back in 1783.
I never even heard of that one.
Yeah, they kicked out the French. Okay, the Haitian blacks kicked out the French, and it took some time, and it was a big battle. But they forced the French off the island and have been paying enormous financial reparations to France since then and up till today. But they did get rid of the French people. They also are paying out the wazoo all their money. But that's the only revolution that ever succeeded in human history.
Interesting. Brother, I just noticed the time. I am so far beyond. I push the limits all the time, but I can do that because I own the radio. station, but I have some mentoring sessions coming up, so I could sit here and talk much longer. But let's do this. Let's. What are you doing this time next Tuesday?
Whatever you'd like. If you want to talk next Tuesday, I'll put something together to talk about.
If Monday works better for you, let's shoot for Monday or Tuesday. Let me know which one works better for you.
Okay, well, let me tell you how my schedule works. I'm retired. Every day is Sunday, and it's always noon.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I live my life. So any day works for me. What I'll do, though, this time is now I'll have a week to actually prepare something and talk about something intelligently and maybe focus on one subject.
Well, I think you did pretty good flying by the seat of your pants, so.
Yeah. I don't know. They look a little worn. I did the best I could. Hey, Dwayne, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You have no idea. None. You don't. I really look forward to this.
I've enjoyed it just as much. And I look forward to the friendship that was, chopped off for a while. We just, I think that's a sign of true friendship, is we just pick up right where we left off. I mean, it's not that hard.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. So we've done that, and I'm proud of it.
Give my best to your Lady Anne.
And you do the same?
To my Lady Anne, okay.
Yes, please.
That's Anne Marie with a hyphen.
Right, I know that.
Okay, and
absolutely.
Take good care of yourself. Thanks so much for being on the show today. And once I get everything uploaded later today, I'll send you a link.
Okay, and hey, Dwayne, thanks for having me.
Hey, man.
And please do send me a link. Please do send me a link. I want to post it on my page so everybody watches it and hears it and sees it, and maybe comes back and listens.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on our Google Plus blog, and when I catch my breath, I'll even spin it up to the cloud and put it on iTunes. So,
and you'll put a link on my Facebook page, right?
Yeah. And okay. I already emailed you a link to that research report I was talking about.
Okay, great.
Okay,
hey, Dwayne, thanks for having me.
Man, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to next week. Okay.
It has been mine too, and I look forward to it too. All right, you have a great night.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
All right. Well, friends, there you have it, the circle of life. There'll be much reflection to be done on my part, because he played a large part in my life. Primarily because I was at such an impressionable point in my life. 21, head over heels in love with this hippie girl I found dancing barefoot in the park in San Diego. But you've all heard that story, so I won't tell you again. And, from the outside looking in, I mean, he was everything I aspired to at that point in my life. To hear that his life took a different direction, I suppose the only term I could use is surprising. I'm surprised. I'm not judgmental in any kind of way. God bless America. We're all free to make our own choices. So he made his. And he has a wonderful daughter from a previous relationship many years ago. But I think during our conversation today, he mentioned she's studying to be a nurse. So that's a good thing. All right, we're gonna have to wrap this up because I gotta go to work and do some mentoring sessions. The S&P has managed to creep up to 2439. I've marked them up while we were talking. So last night on the Concierge Trade Alert, we told everyone to consider being long the S&P 500 at 2433. So we had a 3-point rally, got back below the trigger, a 4-point rally, which actually turned into 3 to 9, which actually turned into a 6-point rally at $50 per point per contract. So nicely in the S&P today. Now, keep in mind, these are last week. On the Dow, we said to consider buying 21,215, caught a 24-point rally, important prices and important areas are almost always taken out. Remember, we never get out at the swing high or the swing low because we trail our stop and or we're trading to a fixed target. So as a result, you'll always leave something on the table. You know, call it something for the next guy, good karma, however you can reconcile it so that it doesn't eat at you. Because the guys who try to milk every last tick out of a trade, you know what you call those guys? Greeters at Walmart, that's right. And that's a very honorable profession. On soybeans last night, we sent an alert out to consider buying 937. Ran up 4.5 points at $50 per point per contract. And the short side has not triggered. 30-year bonds. We said to consider selling 153.18. We came right down to a swing low of 153.18. Hate it when that happens. We said consider buying 154.07, and that has not transpired. Okay. Gold. Again, last week's zones. We said to consider selling 1264. We finally got a drop worth $360 per contract. That's if you got out at the exact swing low, which, by the way, you didn't. And then what appeared to be a rally, we broke the buy level at 1270. We hit exactly 1271. It's all of $100 per contract, and now we've pulled back. Does that mean the move is over? No, not at all. Just draw some fibs real quick, and we're sitting right on top of the 24% retracement. This is the 38, and then here's the 50 and the 62. So we wait. All right, next is the NASDAQ, which after a $4,000 per contract drop on Friday and a $1,200 per contract drop yesterday, today we managed to run up $600 per contract. 600 first run, important prices, important areas, almost always tested, and then a $400 run. Okay. And that one didn't pull back. Yeah, you probably got taken out on this pullback right here. So we won't calculate that point. Moving on up. Crude oil. Again, last week's zones. Look how we consolidated. Consider selling 45.85. That was either a walk away, a stop out, or 8 ticks. Now, in order to trade this, you'd have absolutely positively had to have gone to a 5-minute chart to try to find an acceptable entry, because that, putting your stop up here, that dog can't hunt. This drop was worth $290 per contract. On the long side, the first move up was either a walk away, a stop out, or 6 ticks. I think, again, unless you found something on a 5-minute chart to give you a good entry, there was no trade there. Now, I have said many times, say it again, often the entry with the least amount of risk will provide the most profit. Now, this would be the risk here, and that's going to be a couple $100. And so far, we've managed to rally up to 46.57. So that's a whopping $170 per contract so far. $170 per contract available. Tomorrow is Fed Day. So a lot of traders are in check at the moment until we see what Janet's going to yell tomorrow. If they raise the rates a quarter point, that's going to send the markets down in the short term. And by the short term, I mean probably for 30 minutes. Then traders are going to go, but you know what? That means the economy's healthy, and so then we'll rally. If she doesn't raise rates tomorrow, then the market will spike higher, and about 30 minutes later, traders will realize, oh man, she knows something we don't, and then we're going to move lower. So, what I just said is what most talking heads say. Tomorrow, after the Fed announcement, we're either going to go higher or lower, or both. Now, I realize I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but at least I'm willing to admit it. I'm not going to come back tomorrow and go, see, I told you. Russell. By 1424, well, the patient is not well. Look, I'm worried about bed sores at this point. It's just, although the Russell did get whacked pretty hard the other day. I mean, we've had some good moves. We had a $1,200 move on, was it Friday? Yeah. And since Friday, it's been violently sideways. So that covers everything. That covers the Russell, that covers crude, that covers the NASDAQ, that covers gold, covers the 30-year bonds, covers soybeans, the Dow, and the S&P. Look at that. We hit that old zone from the old contract, and what do? We got rejected. Now, this has to tell you that, okay, what's the one consistent factor? If these are last week's zones, and if last week we were trading the June contract, what's the one consistent factor right here? This number, 2439. Well, what's special about that? I don't know. See, that's the part of the equation that I'm not ashamed to tell you I haven't figured out. I can put these lines on the chart, and by the end of the week it often looks like some kind of magic act, but it's not. It's just something that I saw one Sunday afternoon, and we've been testing it weekly since December 14th of 2009. However, there's still part of it that I don't know that I'll ever. There is something unique about 2439. That's why the market behaved as it did right there. If you figure it out before I do, let's have lunch. All right? Okay. Guys, I got to go. It has been it's been a great day. It's been a great show. We've had a number of great shows here of late, from Wayne Jett to Jason Hommel, and to my old friend Jeff Prager. And of course, we enjoy every day when the Stock Whisperer drops in and then drops out. But he hung with us for a while today, so that's great. And he'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow's Wednesday, so Wayne Jett will be with us tomorrow. He is the author of The Fruits of Graft, Great Depressions, Then and Now. A CIA operative just wrote a very glowing review of his book. If you haven't picked up a copy, you can do it at Amazon.com or at ClassicalCapital.com. That's Wayne's site, and you can read some of the essays that he's written. He'll be joining us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. All right? Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. as always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.